I've had the experience where someone's tried my horse and made me money because they did that. They unlocked a horse that I didn't know was there, and then they had to buy it for more because their own training was on it. It's awesome. Yeah, I had that. I've had that.
Tom Sawyer style.
Yeah.
The Converse Cowboy journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers from all walks of life, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I've realized there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved, or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you truly love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy.
This episode is brought to you by Kimes Ranch, Carrie Kelly Bits and Spurs, Bluebonnet Feeds, and Brumbaugh's Furniture and Design.
So we're here in Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm super stoked to have all of y'all sitting here today. I'd like to thank my pal Jesse Lennox for rounding up the troops, coordinating this deal, a.k.a. the Louis Vuitton Vaquero. You've been absent for a few shows, so glad to have you back.
Glad to be back, buddy.
Yeah. So I've sat down with a number of trainers over the course of the Converse Cowboy, and very achieved trainers that have, Austin Shepard, Jesse Lennox, Don Benuelos, Kenny Platt, and the list goes on and on. What I'm stoked about with you guys is
We're the opposite.
Yeah, y'all are the exact opposite. No, y'all are the ones that
never heard of them.
y'all are the ones that build the foundation for a lot of those horses that end up in those programs. But there are no lifetime earnings per se that get tracked for the 2-year-old guys than for those horses that come out of y'all's program and go on to do the thing and compete at the highest level. So I'm going to stop talking here pretty soon, but I want y'all to know that I really appreciate y'all's time today. But I would like to start with just a little bit of background. So we have, for those that are watching, you'll see this. Those that are listening, we have the Canadians on the right, and we have the Americans here on the left. So if ICE shows up,
Wes's and Richards will sell higher.
There was an unmarked van outside. Now thinking about it.
So we got Wes Ashlock from Abilene, Texas, Richard Jordan from Idaho, Jesse Lennox, Ontario, Canada, and Gregg Garvie from the land of Ian Tyson.
He's actually from Ontario, but he did die in Alberta.
I was trying to make you look cooler, dude.
Good luck.
When you're born in Alberta, you're already starting behind, so.
Yeah. I was going to say all those famous cowboys from Ontario, but actually.
Justin Bieber, Celine Dion.
There's no way Celine Dion's from Ontario. She's French.
Yeah.
Here's where we'll start, right? So you guys get these horses. I'm curious to know, you've been doing this for a long time and had great success, but day one, what is day one like? Week one, what is that? 30 days in, what is it that you're looking for? And I'll start with you, Wes. Like, what is it that you're looking for day one on a yearling or a 2-year-old that you're just starting for the very first time?
Day one for me, just getting them broke. I just go in there and try to, just get familiar with them, get them traveling around the round pen, get them used to the saddle. Usually the first day we saddle them and just lunge them. I lunge them around with a little hackamore that I made, then teach them how to stop, how to take a few steps back, how to roll over their hocks, kind of the first day in the round pen. And then from there, I'll drive them with driving lines, usually, and time around with a draw rein, do different things like that just to make sure my mechanics are there. And then from there, start riding them. And the round pen, a couple rides in the round pen, I'm ready to go out in the big arena where I can travel a little more. And then just usually try to make just a safe, sound horse for, the first 30 days, 45 days. And then from that point, I'll start tracking a cow around on them and then, just start working them, flag them a little bit. I usually like to track a cow around on them first, and then I'll start in flagging them some. And that's kind of how we start. Yeah.
Right on. How long, when are you climbing on their back for the first time?
It just depends on the horse. I just let the horse tell me. I mean, I've had some that are pretty rank about the saddle, and I just, yeah, that's my main goal, is to have a safe horse, for whoever, wherever they go. And so if I'm going for a bronc ride every day, that's not going to be good for anybody. So I just usually want to make sure they're accepting what I'm asking them in the round pen before I, get on them. Yeah.
Right on. Richard, what about you, my friend? You get these, I'm sure y'all are going to bring a load of yearlings back from this Western Bloodstock sale this year. When you pull those things off the trailer, what's day one look like for you?
Well, the ones that have been in the sale are pretty easy because they've been blanketed and, led around and stuff. The ones that are at home and, we're running them off the trailer into the round pen, those ones will take another hour or two to get on. The ones from the Western Bloodstock, so usually, we put the saddle on and kind of pull them around both ways and start to get on them. And usually they just sort of are pretty good. Last year I did get bucked off once, so maybe I'll do some round pinning type. Yeah. I might kind of chase them around a little bit more. They're I don't know.
Which one bucked you down?
I don't want to talk about it.
Is it for sale this year?
It's probably the best.
It's really unimportant.
It's probably the best.
Lot number, please.
Yeah, yeah.
You, Gregg Garvie from Canada.
I mean, and probably these guys can relate, but like day one, as soon as you said that, I'm like, day one, that's not day one. Day one is the first day I saw him. A lot of times that's at a fitter if I'm there to go look at him ahead of the sale, or it's at the sale. But that for me is like the start of the journey of gathering information about this individual, so that, the day you're asking about, the first day at home, starting to work in on him, I feel like I already kind of know the horse and know some things about it, or I certainly have like a theory about him. I guess I'm big on analogies, but I think it's like, it would be like day one with like a pretty feral child that's never really like worn shoes or been to town. And now it's like first day of school when they're whatever age, and they have no concept of being told where to go or what to do. And definitely have no concept of like, you will now absorb what I'm telling you for the next 45 minutes. Like, they're like, what are you talking about? And you, just like that kid, you could grab the kid and like, he's small, you could put him in the classroom and lock the door. You just like, we can grab the horse off the trailer and do it, but we can't make them be receptive to it. And some kids, like, to stick with that analogy, you could here in a minute, like if they're good minded and they're not too worried about it, they'll kind of like catch up and figure it out. But like these guys, I'm sure could tell you, or Jesse, some of them don't. They do not want it, and they get more sure they don't want it. And I feel like having done that wrong many zillion times and wishing, geez, I wish now 6 months in, I wish on day one I'd not been in such a rush and worked on that. So like I think about getting them, how do you get that feral kid to get in the classroom, sit down, because I can force him to do all that, but I can't make him pick up a pencil and like pay attention. Mm-hmm. So that is not a good answer at all, but that's all I'm thinking about, is how do I get him to like get in the classroom. What does that actually look like? If you watch the video, probably me chasing around with a flag and a halter, being a crazy person, but trying to make it wild and crazy when they're thinking about the playground, and trying to make it real peaceful when they're like, who's this guy and what's he up to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating because I'm sure each one of you guys, a trained eye can watch the other and know exactly what they're doing. Whereas I, with an ignorant eye, I watch it, or, other people that may not know, and it's like, oh, fuck, there is a reason behind it, but what is it? So I find that fascinating, and I get to spend a lot of time with Jesse, and I'll just ask him when I'm confused or don't know, and he's like, oh yeah, or we'll watch a 2-year-old video, and he's like, I like this, this, and this. He's moving his back feet, stuff that's just not even in my awareness, So yeah, I find that fascinating. So you're not technically a 2-year-old guy, but you fancy you like the 2-year-old process, right?
I like to dabble.
You like to dabble.
More of a hobbyist.
I can't quite do it like these guys, but I like to dabble.
So what does your day one look like? I've seen your day one, and it's quite different than most, but
yeah,
tell the folks listening what your day one's like.
Well, I think just kind of like what everyone's touched on a little bit is, it just got a little bit gonna kind of depend where the horse came from, and a lot of the sale fitted ones, is Richard said, they're maybe a little easier, but sometimes it's a little harder to gain a connection because they've been handled so much. So they're like, are you just going to give me a shot, or are you just, you know? And so, like, to touch on what Gregg's saying, he wants to, you know, really connect with the horse and get like a personal relationship where I'm teaching you something, and every time you see me, associate that with the learning process. And I always try to tell people the hardest horse to work is a horse that's not reaching for an answer. And so, like, I always try to think my first goal in horse training is to teach the horse to guess at something. Anytime I apply pressure, they guess at an answer, and I'll reward them just for guessing, even if they guess wrong. And then as we go through the training, I'm going to be a little more specific about what door I'm actually wanting them to reach for. But key thing is, whether they're a feral horse in the pasture or they're one out of the sale, just get them looking for an answer. And I feel like I've had the pleasure of riding behind all three of these guys, and that would be, they all have vastly different styles, but that's the one thing I've noticed from riding behind them is the first time I swing a leg over the horse after they've had it for a year, no matter what I change on the horse is just reaching for a door, an answer. They're reaching for a reward. And that, I think, in essence, is the most important thing in a 2-year-old program. That doesn't matter, as long as that horse is eager to learn, then we've been successful, you know? So I don't know if I'm getting that right or not.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and I think the one common thing we could probably all say that we love about a horse is that they try, you know. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and that's exactly what we were talking about, is just, you know, a horse can be a little less talented maybe than some or whatever, but if they have a real strong effort to want to try to please you, I think that's a very important thing.
Who are you talking to about that?
Jared Jones, he's a friend of mine that trains cow horses, and we were visiting him about that today, you know, just how important it is to, you know. But I heard, like, Kenny did an interview, and that's what he said, you know, wanting a horse to try, you know. I think that's, you know, some horses that you may look at them, they're not perfect conformationally or everything, just like you would want to be perfect, but then they go out and just put a real strong effort and have a desire inside of them just to be great, you know.
Yeah. So you guys mainly focus on cutting horses. When y'all first starting these horses, like, how much of cutting is involved and how much of just like getting this horse broke is involved? What is the focus?
I probably start thinking about cutting a little more quickly than most people. I guess, to make an analogy, if we want a bunch of basketball players, I don't feel like, you know, starting with the drills is the way to go. I just don't hand them the ball and say, hey, you guys go play for a while. And once I see what they need to work on, you know, and they see what they need to work on, they see, oh, if I can dribble with my left hand right here in this situation, it would help a little. And then you can get them to dribble with their left hand, where if you start out trying to make them dribble with their left hand, maybe they're like, oh, that's stupid, my right hand works good. You know, so I probably go right to turning back and forth, and it's seeing which ones are gonna turn back and forth smooth the easiest. And you know, I probably finish by turning back and forth smooth and letting them kind of back out of it, you know, and be like, well, that was good, you know. And so I don't travel that much or get them as broke as, you know, maybe I should, or, you know, what's kind of typically popular. And I think that came a little bit just from necessity, you know. When you're trying to make the living at first, you've got to ride way too many horses. And so to get on and get what absolutely has to be done that day, and then go to the next one, is kind of what you do. And then I found out that seems to work for me. You know, I tried the other things, and you know, that's what works for me. So I just kind of keep doing it. You know?
I think that's what's fascinating too, is that each person's style, all of y'all styles are different. However, the end goal, the result, y'all are hunting the same thing, but just get there in different ways.
I watch these guys and I think, gosh dang it, why can't I do that? But you know, it doesn't work, so I just stay with what I can do.
Yeah. How soon will you said you just hand them the ball. How soon do you bring cows in with the young horse?
I guess by hand them the ball, I try to get them to turn back and forth over their hocks smoothly, you know, and kind of learn that they want to draw, and you know, so basically, I get them traveling pretty good for the first week and turning both ways pretty good for the first week. Then I probably start to back them up a little bit in the second week, as long as they don't feel like they're going to tip over or do something silly. If I start to back them, you can feel it. Some of them you can feel they'll, if you try to teach them to back too early, it's going to be a problem. But the ones that'll take it, I start to back them up probably in that second week, and then start to turn them to the fence in the round pen, just see if they'll hit and turn over their hocks. And if they'll do it, I just kind of go on with it.
Mm-hmm. I think a point you made, it's important, like where you are when you begin your career and where you are after you're accomplished and you have proven some things, you build confidence and momentum. You may be more willing to try something or stick with something that you may be a little timid to do in the beginning. So I'm curious to know, from each of you, what is a belief that you once had, like firm belief you had in your training program that you no longer subscribe to?
Well, just for me, what's changed my program a lot is just showing more. And that's something I'm going to go back to this year, just because I feel like I've been missing it in my program a little bit the last few years. And the more that I'm shown, the more that I realize what's practical to cutting and what isn't. And it's really, something that I feel like I need to go back and do a little more of, and I'm going to do that this year. But I have the most respect for everybody here, just for the fact that everyone does something a little different. But I enjoy watching videos of Richard every year, of Gregg, Jesse, who's working horses. Anytime I see a video of him, I try to study him, because that's what I love about our sport is there's, 1,000 different ways to do it, but it all works if you believe in it. And I think that's the most important thing in teaching these young horses. What we're trying to teach them is the reason that what Richard does works for him is because he believes in what he's doing. And the same for Gregg, the same for Jesse, and if we don't believe in it, those horses aren't going to believe it. And so that's something that we, I think we all, do. Yeah.
Well said. What about you, Gregory?
I'm gonna not answer your question because I got a list as long as your arm of things that I believe that I threw out. Like, I would say I've abandoned everything I knew and started from scratch like 100 times. So, but I just...
Well, real quick, I think it's fair to say a lot of like trainers and showmen we see today, like go apprentice and they train under somebody for years. Tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think you did, or you did. I don't think any of us. Did any of you guys train?
There's a guy named Tom Merriman, and that's who I went to work for. He worked for Buster Welch back in the day, and I worked for him for 3 years. And that's okay. And my dad was a welder by trade. He went over there and did some trading out to breed to that guy's stud. And so I did work for him for 3 years. And the foundation of everything I do, I learned from that man.
Right on.
Yeah. And he was an amazing teacher, and more than that, a great human being, and really taught me a lot. Yeah.
Say his name again?
Tom Merriman.
Tom Merriman. Right on.
Yeah.
But for you two guys?
Yeah. I mean, I never worked for anyone for 3 years. I never had a job for 3 years, period, in my life. But I worked for a gajillion people for like a month each, and I've never had an original idea in my life. I've just copied all the people that have helped me, including this guy. And I don't know Richard's good, but I have studied your videos and stalked you like crazy. And the only reason I agreed to do this was so that I could listen to him talk, because he never talks.
And make eye contact.
Well, and I don't know, did you notice? Yeah.
Rich, you wore the same color shirt.
Yeah.
Not an accident.
No, I do have the nanny cam at his house, so I would sweep that for bugs. Anyway, but yeah, just lots of trial and error is how I come up with things, and which means a lot of error and throwing stuff out. But anyway, what I did want to say, because what you were saying, and several people said something similar, that it's crazy, probably in every sport, but this sport, like how different approaches can be. Like just right here, there's between the four of us, if you mapped us on a map of like weird training styles, we're probably the four extremes, and everyone falls in between a bet. But anyway, it's crazy that it all, fast forward to like when they show at the Futurity, you can't really tell who the 2-year-old guy was on this horse. Like they all kind of do. The good ones are good, and it's very hard now to tell how they were taught this thing. And so I was talking maybe to you not that long ago and thinking it must be that from the horse's perspective, it's actually not that different. somehow, because they're all getting to the same place in like the most wildly different approaches. It must be, to us, Richard's deal seems super different from Wes's deal, but to them, those two horses, if they got together and compared notes about what they learned in their 2-year-old year, they would find a lot in common, even though to us it looks so different. I think that must be true. I've never been a horse. Disclaimer.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And I think to say, you can't really tell who did the 2-year-old year. Well, you can a little bit because y'all's are in the finals.
Shout out. Yeah. 75% of the time, every time.
Every time. so I feel like as a horse trainer that shows and trains 3-year-olds, I sure can tell.
Well, I actually bought one of his one time just so I could feel it. He wouldn't ever need to ride one, so I just went in there and held my hand up till I got it. Yeah, and and it was actually great. I mean,
What'd you learn?
Well,
I just am getting what's money.
No, well, no, I did. I really did, though. I really admire his program and look up to it, and I know he has his own unique style that I love that about his horses, and so I wanted to feel it. So went in there and bought one, and it turned into a very nice show horse, and did well for us, and so it was yeah. But I mean, his horses, just watching them, I mean, they all have a very cool style, the way they stop, the way they're tied to the cow, and when I got on that horse, I felt that immediately. It was everything I thought it would be. Watching it, it was, the feel was there, and it was pretty cool. Yeah,
That's cool.
Like every horse trainer, I think kind of our general theme is we stalk Richard's Facebook a lot.
Right.
And I remember January a couple of years ago breaking a bunch of colts in, and he had posted a video working. He's just working another horse, like somebody's on a turnback horse, and he's just working it, and it looked incredible. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is what he does. This is why he's kicking everybody's ass. And I had 6 studs to start that year, and you have no idea how cowy a 2-year-old stud is if you are working a mare in heat. Like, what a brilliant idea.
You're talking about getting a hold now.
Holy shit. Yeah.
And where are those 6 studs now, Jesse Meadows?
Gilded. Gilded. And Richard's videos do not have a warning label. And you realize it was sabotage the whole time.
Oh man,
So dangerous to put those videos out and not say, don't try this at home.
That's crazy.
what would be your answer to that question?
So I guess just probably a typical problem that I think Richard touched on is, early in your career, you just got to cover more horses than maybe you should, just trying to make ends meet. And that'll cause you to speed up maybe your colt starting process. And for me, it's always Abilene's coming in January and the Futurity just ended. And I would say that probably just speeding that beginning stages. I think we've all touched on how important that teaching that young horse when it sees a human to look for an answer, because during the sale and the clip in and the wash and prep, they see a human and the human means nothing, and so I'd say I'd probably rush that. And that would be the biggest belief I've probably changed, because you get to feel when you get to ride behind these guys, when you get lucky enough, customers start believing in you and they bring you to the sale and let you pick your favorite one out, and you buy one of these guys' top horses, you bring it home, and you probably realize just how being in a hurry on the ones you had at home already maybe put you behind on a just as talented horse, that now you've put yourself in a position where you've had to go purchase somebody else's talented horse because you didn't allow for the time. And I don't even think, it's not that you can't do a good job while you're showing and everything, as long as you remind yourself it's the quality of the step. Don't just get this horse in here and break it real quick. Get this horse in and teach it to think real quick, and I think that would be the biggest thing. I think like anybody, when you're a 2-year-old guy and you're working for a big name trainer. You're just rolling through a bunch of colts, trying to get to your 3-year-olds, trying to get to your low end show horses that you get to work. And your colt breaking side of the process, which is why the guy hired you, might be, you're just thinking about how to get to that show pen. And it's easy to skip the parts of why the guy's paying your paycheck, So then you got to go on your own and
Describe the feeling. We'll start with you, Richard. Rolls A shows up to the Futurity last year and ends up the reserve champion. What is it? Describe the feeling of knowing like you started this thing, and I know y'all are each going to be very humble and you're not going to want to take credit for this, but it did start with you. There is some relationship that you have with the horse. Like, what is that feeling of seeing that horse go on to do that?
I am not going to have to get a job this year.
I got one more year. Yeah.
Right on. So it's just proof. And does that build confidence? Does that build momentum?
I think it just lets people know that, and gives us confidence that, that the ones we're working with this year got a chance to be good, Not that they will be or, we'll do as good a job on them as they're as good a horse, but there is a possibility, that, one in my program could do that.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I get. And it's good because it is, in this business, if you don't kind of produce positive results, you're gonna have to get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a performance-based game.
Yeah.
Yes. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I always love seeing those horses go on and be successful with other people. I mean, it's just confirmation that the hard work you put into it was worth it, and not only that, those guys that go on and continue that horse's career, they always, I've had just great feedback from those guys, and I enjoy that part of it as much as anything. Is just once they get them, because none of these colts are perfect. They're just 2 years old and they have to continue on, that 3-year-old year, those guys are still doing a lot to finish those horses. And so it is a fun process to see them continue on with that. But when one of them does go to the show pen and is very successful, that's, it's an amazing feeling to know that you just had a small part in that horse's career.
Right on. Gregory?
It's just exciting. I'm just like I haven't been, so full disclosure, I feel a little self-conscious even sitting here with these guys. Like I do not feel like I'm in the conversation with those two guys, but that's fine. I'm not getting out of this chair, so that's cool. But I just feel like I'm at all these things as a fan, because I spent more time as a fan than I have as actually being in it. And so I would say, like, anytime I have sold a horse, like I got a thing on my phone, I get a text anytime a horse I've sold shows anywhere, and if I can watch it, I'm watching it, and I just feel like a fan watching it, just like you'd watch your favorite sports team. I'm just excited.
Yeah, right on. That's what's cool about hanging out with this guy, because he's not only competing at the highest level, doing the thing, he's also a big fan of the sport.
Totally.
And so, like, yeah, we hang out and watch and just admire good horses. Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing I'll say is I'm very much in awe of a great horse, and I think that's one thing that, and the great ones to me, we do our job, but we don't make them great. I think the great ones really have something about them that makes them great. And I think that's just, our job is just to help guide that and bring it along. But they're just like a border collie dog, in my opinion. Like the good dogs, like they want to work. And I think these horses are bred nowadays to do this. And
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That sculptor, like Michelangelo or something, said like the sculpture is in the marble and you just chip the rock off the outside, but it was always in there.
Yeah.
Which isn't literally true, obviously, but that's how he sees it. But I'm sure all four of us would agree that is literally true with cutting horses. You can't make this one any better than it was born to be. You can do a cleaner job of chipping the outside rock off, but the thing that's in there was always in there. And I guess that is one thing I learned that I really wanted. I'm obsessed with like horse psychology, and I was really hoping that when you see like Austin win the Futurity or one of these guys on a great horse, that you're mostly seeing what Austin did to this blank canvas of a horse. And it's so not true. you're seeing how great this horse was, and Austin succeeded, and Austin following Richard, let's say on Rosé, the two of those guys succeeded in chipping off the outside rock really, really well, but they didn't make Rosé. Her mom and dad made her, you know.
Well said. I saw a quote that and it's from Richard Jordan, and it says, it's kind of a good segue into this. Most of the really great ones were great from the start.
I said that.
You did say that.
Okay.
And I think I saw it on Cutting Horse Central, but and it ties into everything y'all are saying, but at what point do you know? Like, at what point do y'all have all had freaks and everybody's hunting the freak? At what point are you like, oh shit, this one's different?
You get a good feeling the first time that first time you're on it. Some of them just feel right. You know, you got to brush the dust off of the muscle on their back, and you're just like, this one's gonna be good. And maybe you're hopeful wrongly about a lot of them. I don't know, but you do get the feeling like this one's got it, right away. And maybe it's just that you get that feeling about all of them until you're proven wrong. I don't know.
Is it a physical thing or a mental? Like, is it their mind that?
I think it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Wes?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it was a little clearer to me the first time I ever got to ride a great horse. Gail Holmes sent me a mare called Racy Moon. She sent me 3 that year, but I was just riding just horses up until that point. And I started these 3 fillies, and that particular filly, like the round pen process went faster than any of them I'd ever dealt with. Like she just accepted everything quickly. I was riding her quicker than the rest of them, and going around the round pen. Whenever I thought about stopping, just thought about it, she just stopped. And whenever I went to turn her, she dropped her nose on the ground and turned. And then a few weeks later, I started on her cow, and I drive her up to the cow, and she puts her nose right down in the sand and starts nudging the sand and putting her ears up at the cow, and the cow moves, and she just moved. And I was it just shocked me because I'd never felt a horse ever do anything like that. And so, and now riding more horses and more well-bred horses, I think it's not quite as clear to me as it was then, just because the first time feeling an animal do all this natural ability on its own that I'd never felt before, felt at such a higher level than I'd ever felt it. And that's one thing about these horses. I've had a lot of people teach me things, I guess everything that I do to a horse, somebody taught me. I can't say that there's a lot of original things that I do because I either watched a video or asked somebody a question or they gave advice, and so most of the things I do to a horse, I probably learned from someone, but I've equally learned as much, if not more, from great horses now that have taught me what, like that. I love for a horse to work low on a cow. The reason I love that is because that first mare taught me that. Like, I didn't teach her that. And I had those other fillies, and I actually went over to Winston Hansma's for him to work those 3 fillies, and she just happened to be the first one he worked, and he looked at me and he was like, how did you get this mare to do this? And I said, I didn't. Like, this is just her. This is just what she does, And I said, and when you work those other 2, you'll know I'm telling the truth. They don't do what she does. And but yeah, it's just it is cool to feel that.
So just like we were talking about Rosé, I actually videoed her when I was halter breaking her. Like I threw a rope on her, and she came around so quick and gave it to that so quickly that I tried to video it, and took a few pictures. Of course, it looks ridiculous because she's, just a hairy horse in the middle of winter up in Idaho, and so it wasn't something that I could, even share with anybody. But like, that's how quick, some of them give you that feeling so quickly on such small things.
Totally.
I mean, it's on my phone.
I want to see it.
You want to? I probably got a picture. Hope made me delete the actual video. She was like, "Don't show people."
It's weird.
You're being weird. This is a bad phone.
Yeah, this will not go viral on TikTok.
This does not look like you think it does. I have a sex tape like that.
You got to use the mic, buddy. Your jokes aren't landing because they can't hear them.
Thank goodness.
My wife will appreciate that one.
Wes, when you felt that racy moon,
Yeah.
and you felt like what all she did, and it was just her, and realized that those great ones, it's just them. Did you then go back and apologize to the previous 500 for trying to make them into what you saw on TV?
No, I
Because
just
I had that experience. Like, oh, you poor horses. I see now. Yeah, like, ooh, that's on me. I thought, okay, my bad.
No.
Yeah.
No, I tell you what though, I did try to figure out how to get the rest of them to do what she
Yeah.
could do, and then I learned that was a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
Yeah,
what,
how hard is that?
it was hard for me right then, because I'm just like, well, if this horse can do it, surely the rest of them can, and they couldn't. That just wasn't their natural way of doing that. And that's one thing that I've tried to really work on, is to not fit every horse in a box, you know, I think, and make them all do the same things, because they're just different. And I've had some horses that, you know, I'm a sucker for athleticism. I love to feel that, but probably in my show career, I've done better on some of the horses that maybe weren't the most athletic, but they were really intelligent, you know, and so I think that's something that I'm a little more drawn to now, you know.
Yeah.
Where does a horse like Rose come from? Where did, like, is that a bought one? Y'all raised it? What?
Yeah, Todd raised her.
And
Todd Nelson raised her.
and her mother, where?
Cat Smiling.
Yeah.
That was a mare. He called her Ren. We owned, you know, for quite a few years, and you know that Rolls A just, or the Rolls Royce on her was just right. You know, it just hit. And she had a lot of other really good horses on, you know, out of her, but Rolls Royce was just the right cross.
And where did y'all get her mother?
The Cat Smiling. I think Todd got her from Todd Nelson. Bought her from John Bishop, I believe, in California.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of Paul Hanswell,
Paul Hanswell, y'all. Canadian. Yeah.
Broadcasting from the Bombars booth, the only place where cowboys admit they care about interior design.
nailed it, dude.
Nailed it.
Love that.
So yeah, thank you, Brumbas, for letting us set up here and
Yeah.
and do this.
So I have just kind of a quick, let's say, hypothetical question. And maybe I'm, you know, just let's say I'm asking for a friend, but let's just say that friend's name's Mike. It's not, but it could be. So this is just a little scenario situation. Let's say during a hug, you accidentally kiss your mother-in-law on the lips. What's your next move? And I'll probably throw this one to Greg because his mother-in-law's a fox.
Obviously, the only natural move is to immediately tell everybody that you know, and then be embarrassed that everybody knows at the same time. Is that probably what you would do? Do you think, Jesse?
That's what I will advise my friend to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
And is it possible that in this hypothetical situation, that person that maybe had done this thing claims that they were trying to kiss them on the cheek? And if so, how does that person explain the amount of tongue that was involved in the kiss? Asking for a friend. Go ahead.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up. 'Cause, I know Richard's dying to know. But I feel like, the scenario is I go to kiss my wife goodbye, and I go to give my mother-in-law a hug and a peck on the cheek as she's turning to kiss me on the cheek. Lips law. Very similar to like the scene in Titanic, I would say. But now we're here and I can't pull away too quick because I don't want her to think I'm thinking you. But the judges are
You do the polite thing and lean in.
well, I don't want her to think I'm a bad kisser. This is a chance to kind of show my skills. And I did watch a Richard Jordan video on Facebook that reminds me of this.
Oh man, this was like a week ago in the cow box, by the
It
way.
was a week ago. Yeah.
At the Futurity.
I've been just having to talk about it because I'm struggling.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is you don't actually have to talk about it. Nobody would have known about this except for that you keep telling people.
Jesse's like, how does everybody know? I'm like, because you keep telling.
This is the 5th time you've told me the story in 30 minutes. That's how everybody knows. You've now said it on a podcast.
Getting into this business, how did you get your start, Richard?
Well, I just starting 2-year-olds.
And were you cutting at this time, or
Just starting, not 2-year-old. I shouldn't say 2-year-old. Starting horses, you know, for neighbors and stuff. For quite a few years, I did that.
How old would you have been?
Probably my 15, 16.
No, okay.
In between, you know, my sophomore and junior year, I think I pretty much started starting horse.
I'm curious to know because you said you coach your son's football and basketball teams. Did you grow up
When they were little?
when they were little? But did you grow up playing sports?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So how did you like abandon the sport route and go horses, or were you trying to balance between the two?
I just did it kind of in my spare time. I didn't do it like full time in high school. I basically played sports and then just rode here and there when I had a chance.
Right on.
Yeah.
What caused the cutting move, or what moved you towards the cut?
Well, I liked it really good. We went up to, I liked working horses, riding all day and stuff. It's pretty boring, really. After you get to doing it, you're just riding along and you're just bored. And so, if you can add some turns in there, really help. do something where we were chasing cows and turning, and so we just started buying some cutting horse prospects. My parents helped me buy a couple of them, and I started showing them a little bit, and that was pretty much it. Once I got that first show horse, I was good. I worked for a guy named Bobby Usher for like 6 months and got to see, by this time I had my hand down on a lot of pretty average horses, paints and things that weren't bred to cut, but I had them where they were. Yeah, I know,
And after Rose, or that wasn't your first great one, but after your first great one, did you go back to the paints and find them out in the country and apologize?
Yes.
No. I think you owe them an apology.
I think they liked it fine.
Well, you weren't doing what I was doing then.
Awesome. So basically, anybody sending you a colt, you just get it cutting, whatever it was.
Probably close, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had some Belgian, thoroughbred crosses that were just gonna go out in the hills and chase cows, and they would turn over their hocks pretty good.
Yeah.
They wouldn't crumple or fold them. They would turn over the apple.
Are there videos?
Yeah.
Probably somewhere, but I don't have them.
Now
That was back before you had cell phones. It would have been on VHS.
even better.
Now I see why the lead rope around Rose as a yearling was so exciting.
We didn't hear about Gregg's moment, Wes explained one horse and, one of those feelings that you got right there. And I had one that Gregg didn't tell us.
I'm still looking for that horse, No, definitely it was a horse called Just Rebelling that I had that ended up with Russ Westfall and it did really good. But yeah, I had never rode a horse until I rode that horse, really.
And when in the process did you start to feel it? Like first day, 8th day?
Yeah, I mean, I was so green, like greener than I am now. Like since then, I've had the experience we're all talking about, and I've had it like the first time I saw them at the fitter. In the first 5 seconds, I was like, this is a special horse. I just know it, and never second guessed that up to the day they showed with the trainer. Like it was just, I knew it. But JR, or Just Rebelling, we always called him JR. We bought him. We really didn't know what we had. I started him like the next day because I had nothing to do. We bought him from Beach Fork. We were staying at Beach Fork, and started him. And yeah, right on that day, I was like, this is different. And he just was like, it was just like off we go. Like, I think I loped a circle both ways. He didn't know anything. Like, I just snuck a saddle, snuck myself up there, threw a little hackamore on there, and we were loping both ways. Off we went. And I guess I appreciate it more in retrospect, because at the time, like, I was extremely green. He was way over my pay grade. But just different things about him. I have felt horses as good as him, but they're all unique in their own way. And I've never felt the horse with his particular set of characteristics again. He felt like a bronc wrapped in a gentle Belgian, kind of maybe like your Belgian thoroughbred crosses. He was like,
I doubt it.
Well, I guess we'll need the VHS to find out for sure. But yeah, he just, to this day, there's things about him that, like, on the first day I was like, ooh, I'm sneaking a ride here. Like I'm gonna pay for this, or like when's the horse gonna come out?
Oh yeah.
And I sold them as a 3-year-old, so I had him for like a year and a half. Never did happen, and even to the day I sold him, I was like, when is the day when he's gonna just like snap? Because he felt like just wired for sound all the time, but he acted so cool, but I could feel he was not cool. And when I watch him show, I think he's still that horse. He's like settled, but like you could wind him up real fast. But yeah, that whole year. So I had 2 cutting horses that year. Mostly what I've done up till this moment right now is mostly ride like barrel horses and jumping horses and every kind of horse except cutting horses. Then I've had a couple cutting horses that I owned with partners that we went to sell. So I have actually very little experience with cutting horses, mostly with every other kind.
I think barrel horses are about the same.
Yeah, kind of like how your Belgian thoroughbred is the same as just Rebling.
I don't know if that's fair. They got to compete at an extremely high level.
Oh, yes.
Making very fast decisions.
Yes.
And they kind of got to do it on their own. So
Yes.
I've actually trained a couple barrel horses, or helped my wife train
Yes.
barrel horses, and it's the one other sport. Obviously, it's not the same. They
Yes.
trot into the arena real
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
better, but
Yes.
like they have to make some decisions, and they have to be
100%.
softness in the rib cage and stuff. So I don't think you're as green as you think you are. I think that this barrel horse training was preparing you.
100%. I never trained him. I just got him broke to ride, and the girls that got him trained him. But it's funny you say that, because I have thought to myself, if this cutting deal ever went away, I would gladly pivot to barrel racing or
Just have to
jumping.
buy tighter pants.
Yeah, well, and I actually already have them. I actually already have them, so
I thought about how to do it myself.
yeah. But to me, and
My kite pants.
no, I don't know if any of y'all have ever been around show jumping, but it's also similar in that, to me, they're all 3 events where you have to train a horse to be able to tell it, we need to be right in this particular spot right now. You can kind of boil all those 3 sports down to that. Like you need to let me put you where we need to be when we need to be there, and we can't stop and ask why and all this. Like, it has to be right now. And so those 3 sports are the same. It's just like very position, or like where we have to be in 3 dimensions at any given point. And obviously to me, cutting and barrel racing are super similar, except for that it's like a barrel pattern, but half of the pattern is done in reverse, which a barrel horse is not very good at. So that is hard. But otherwise it's actually very similar, and jumping is different, but it's not that different. It just go where I pointed you, no matter what. You may find a crazy, scary obstacle in the way. Don't worry about that. Just go over it. And then next time, like, point you somewhere, just get there right now. Don't ask why. Or, I mean, when you train them, they're going to ask why, but try to teach them to where they're like, I don't need to ask why. He's got it. I got to go right there. Holy crap, there's a fence there. Don't worry about that. You can get over it. Like, those 3 events were like reining. I'm in awe of reining trainers. I couldn't do 1 hour of reining training. It seems impossible. It just seems really, really difficult for the trainer, for the horse, for everybody involved. It feels like an intellectual challenge that I could not handle. And that's what I have to say about reining.
That's how I feel about, like, when I watch you guys like do this stuff.
You're not talking about me. You're talking about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of lump everybody but me into a similar category. They can actually pull on the reins while they're cutting, and it's impressive to me, but
yeah.
And you just put your hand down?
I just can't do it. I've tried. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good.
I know what you're
I can
saying.
tell you while I'm doing it, it doesn't always feel good.
But it always looks like it feels amazing, where if I do it, it looks exactly how it feels, good, bad, or otherwise. And there's some guys that, and it always looks amazing. But yeah, so I'm thinking of this because I rode a horse not that long ago that was trained by another 2-year-old guy that I'm a little bit in awe of, because it's so like beautiful to watch. And I worked the horse. We might have to cut this part out. I worked the horse, and it just didn't feel, like what it looked like. And I'm still racking my brain of like, how is this possible? I could not make it look the way he could make it look. But he could, and I'm still racking my brain of what is he doing? Because I cannot hit the button properly. Or I don't know what.
I think that's in just life, outside looking in. Sometimes it's like, oh, they make this thing look easy, but each one of you probably look at each other, and think that same very thing. And it kind of leads me into my next question. So, like, horse training of any kind, like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to go try this thing, and if it doesn't work out in a month or 3 months, I'm going to do something else. It's like this thing takes years to cultivate. And I hear stories like Jerry Hansma was in town not long ago telling stories about when Jesse first started and all the shit he was having to do then. I envy it in a way, because if you choose that path, horse training, like, you love it. And yeah, you may make some money along the way, and that's the byproduct. But I'm curious to know, like, at what point did each of you buy into the belief that you were good enough to do this thing for a profession?
Well, I mean, how I got my start was working for Tom Merriman that I had mentioned, and my dad was a welder by trade. We had some mares we wanted to breed to his stud, and so we made a deal with him to trade out some welding from my dad to do that. So I was my dad's welder's helper, and I quit school in the 8th grade when I was 13, and so I went with my dad over there to weld on those pins. And Tom had a panel round pin out there in the pasture where he worked his horses, and I would just sit up there while my dad was welding and watch him do that. And one day he offered for me to go down there and turn back for him, which I had no clue what that was. And I got on the turnback horse, and he explained what to do. And when I stepped the turnback horse to a cow, that's the first time I'd ever felt a horse. I'd ridden my whole life growing up, but I'd never felt a horse think on its own, that's something that it was taught to do. And it went back and forth with the cow on its own. And that night I told my dad, I said, you're not going to believe how that felt just to feel that turnback horse, now looking back, it was so minimal what that horse was doing, but it was amazing to me. And so then I went to work for Tom for 6 months for free, because he just said, you know nothing, you're going to be in the way. And so I'll teach you for 6 months. And after that, he paid me $400 a month, and I worked for him for 3 years for that. Wow. And so it was, but it was an education that has made me a living the rest of my life. Yeah.
When was the point that clicked for you, though? There was, because throughout the beginning of anything, there's probably some doubt, some questioning. Is this what I'm meant to do? Am I good enough to do this? Will people pay me to do this?
There's still doubt.
And I think there is always some level of doubt, right?
Yeah.
But at some point you made a decision, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing, because you're doing it at a high level. So, like, can you pinpoint a time or a moment when you had that confidence?
Now looking back at the journey and the windy road that it's been to get to here, I just know that was God's plan for my life. I can really say that, because for me to land at a place where I was working for a man that's an amazing horseman, and for that to just happen the way it did, there's no other way to explain it other than that. It's where it was my destiny. It's where I'm supposed to be. And not only that, me being a young boy, basically trying to turn into a man, to be working for someone that I look up to as one of the greatest men I've ever been around, was just something that I needed at that time in my life. And it was, it was great, and so I don't know, I still struggle with, wanting to be better at this. It's something that I'm still learning, and still trying to, further my education constantly to do this. But I don't know that we ever feel like we're, I guess it's what keeps us doing this is I still don't feel like I'm learned everything I need to learn or doing everything I want to do in this. And so it just keeps driving me forward to continue to grow. Yeah.
Like the curse of ambition.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. What about you, Richard?
So I knew I was going to find a way to be good enough at training horses, after my first few summers hauling hay and my changing sprinkler pipe and stuff. I was just like, because that's like with ranch work or farm work, that's what you do. You either work cows or you do actual work. And so I was like, I'm more into the chasing cows on horses, much, much more so driving a tractor or something. So I knew I was going to find a way to, but my actual moment when I knew that when I had some confidence that I could actually train cutting horses, the first year I came down here, and Todd Nelson just dragged me down here. I was perfectly content to just stay home and train, whatever anyone would bring me, and you start these 6-year-old whatever. But he convinced me to come down here. We brought 3 horses down. And
What year would that have been?
It's 10 or 11, one of the two. And one horse, we had got offered some money for her, like in March, and I had told Todd, no, don't take it. And I don't remember what it was, but I said, you should price for 50. And at that time that was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people heard it. Oh, that's and but I hadn't felt the horse do what she would do, and I wanted to work with her, so I convinced Todd to keep her, and I think he wanted to bring a horse down here too to the 2-year-old. So I think that was his goal too. And so we kept her, and we only sold her for $37,000, but like I got in there and she just started to whack back and forth, and the crowd went crazy, and
Look at here, boys.
I teared up a little bit. I was just like, I'm gonna be able to do this the rest of my life.
Really? What horse was that?
Cat Smoking Murata. She was still almost as good as anything that I've got to ride.
Really?
Bob Acre, Doc Mare, and not Freckles Murata, but Cat's Murata. Yeah, she was a fantastic horse.
I feel like anytime Steve Friskup's on the mic, you're going to get 5, 10, 15,000 more than.
Yeah.
He's just.
Has someone done
One
those
of my
stats?
favorite
I think that you probably know.
No. Yeah, he's as good as there is.
Man, he's great. I had him on the show one time, and he is just a great human.
At that Teton sale, I can't remember what horse it was, but it was there was one horse in particular. He alone got another 150 for the horse, and both the bidder and the underbidder just enjoyed the process. Like it became like an entertainment moment, and they gave more money. Like it was a clinic in auctioneer.
Yeah. One of a kind for sure. What would your answer be, Greg?
Ooh, I'm kind of with Wes. Whenever Wes says he feels like he's made it, I'll wait another 5 or 10 years, and then I'll say the same thing. But I mean, I guess it's maybe 2 different things. One, when did I feel like I was not embarrassing myself as a horse trainer anymore? I remember being 27. I maybe started training horses when I was 25. I remember being 27, and I was like, I'm going to give myself till I'm 30, and if I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, or if I don't feel like I fit in, like I'm not embarrassing myself by 30, I'm out. And that's a longer story, but at 30, I was like, okay, I'm not where I need to be, but I fit in with these guys that I used to think were untouchable. And I'm talking about local colt breakers. I'm not talking about this. I got invited to help my mentor ride some horses through a horse sale. And at 27, I was a spectator at the horse sale, and I thought, if I could do this, I could die happy. And so at 30, I did that. So I guess at 30 is when I thought I can hang with some of these guys. But then probably at like 35, when I was broke as could be, I was like, problem 2, how do I make a living doing this thing? And especially in Canada, it's to this day, it's very difficult to even eat doing that. And it was a friend, Dustin Gaunt, that's a cutting horse trainer in Canada. That's the best there ever was in Canada. I worked for him you'll notice a theme. I've never held a job in my life for more than 8 months. Dustin's was like 3 months. And anyways, he was the one that gave me this whole idea. And we sometimes joke because he's like, why didn't I take my own advice? But anyway, he was like, you should look into this selling 2-year-olds thing. And actually was meeting some of these guys shortly after I met Wes. But the first guy he put me in touch with was Hayden Upton. And anyways, I just picked these guys' brains. And Just Rebelling, which is maybe 2 years later, which that was a journey. But when we finally got him sold, and for like, it wasn't crazy money by today's standards, but more money than I ever thought a horse would ever change hands for, certainly one that I had anything to do with. That was when like, oh, wait a minute, this could work. It's going to take a bunch more like this, but I didn't think I'd get here. So this, but definitely it still feels like that could have, the last good one I ever sold could easily be the last one. Like it's, there's no guarantee. This isn't like a pension or anything. Like, and I'll tell one more story. I got to break Wes's 2-year-olds, 3-4 years ago or something like that, which we could do the whole podcast. I'll just tell you how much I think of Wes and that experience. It was one of the things that changed my life, but you wouldn't remember this, and it's funny you're saying you're getting back to showing, because at that time you were doing the opposite, and you had showed a lot that year before, and you were like, man, I need to stay home and just stay in my lane, or not stay in my lane, but focus on one thing. And not to talk you out of your idea, because I'm doing the same thing, and I think you're right. But I remember you just kind of like leaning on the panels of the round pen as I'm breaking horses, which is your job. And the whole reason I was there is because you were showing at Abilene. It was just kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. But anyway, you had just got off the phone with someone that was wanting to send you down the road with a weekend horse to get their earnings to something I can't remember. But I just remember you saying the line, you're like, Gregg, I'm still searching. And from where I'm standing, and this, I have not sold Just Rebelling yet. I have sold one horse ever for $14,000. A horse I spent $21,000 on, by the way. So like, it has not worked. And I'm still like, one day maybe. And Wes Ashlock, I may as well be talking to, I don't know, whatever. I'm a Canadian, so Wayne Gretzky or dang Brett Favre or something. Like, this is like the stereotypical picture of a man that has made it. He sold Wood Tree Magic and Tin Man and on and on. And I'll never forget that. And I'm like, you're still searching? Like, and I'm saying that in a way like that was bad. Actually, no, it was so liberating. Like, well, if Wes Ashlock can feel free to admit to an almost stranger that he doesn't have everything figured out, then I damn sure don't have to have everything figured out. And I don't know if I ever thank you, but thank you for saying that, because it's taken a lot of weight off my shoulders ever since.
My favorite saying about cutting, Pete Branch told me one time, and he said, in cutting, there's two types of people. He said, there's the humble and those that are about to be. And that is the truest statement that I've ever heard, because I don't care how much you've won or how many great horses you've rode. When you walk in there, these cows are the great equalizer. Like, sometimes they just take a good horse out, and no matter, how much preparation or what we've done, to do that. And so that's a saying I've really hung on to, and humility is something that's just important in my life, period. I don't feel like I've made it, or I feel like I'm still, for one thing, I moved to Millsap this year, and I've gotten to work around some good younger guys this year. There's a guy named Colt Clem that rides colts, and I just think the world of that young guy. I like being around him because he just has a fire in his belly right now. I can, that I once felt and I want to feel again,
And it's contagious.
It is. And he just does an amazing job on his colts. And so I've gotten to work around him some this year, and it's really kind of sparked something in me to, like, want to step my game up again. And I think that's, iron sharpens iron. I think that's something we have to continue to do, is work with other people to do that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. What's that line? Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's not that fun, but that's so true. But yeah, you gotta get around people that might prove to you you're not as good as you thought. And it's so scary to do that. Or like, I bet you guys can relate. To me, you guys have both like so made it. But I wonder if you and I kind of talked about it. I ran into Richard at Teskey's a little while ago, and we were talking, like, I just moved here, but I've always lived far away, and Richard does. And you're at home all year, and you're like, yeah, this horse is doing pretty good. They're going to be probably pretty impressed when I show up with this one. And then you get down here, like, oh my, like, you're like, wow, their turnback horses look better than what I thought my best one was. I've had that experience. Anyways, Richard probably hasn't.
I've had that feeling for sure.
It almost makes me want to get in the truck and go back home and don't tell anyone I ever came here. And like, I'm fixing to get embarrassed. And like, who am I to think this was good enough? It's a joke. This isn't even close. But just thank God my wife wouldn't let me drive back home in those situations, because that's when you get better, is when you feel like you suck.
Got to sell the horses before you have money.
Beating that vine, sir. Yes.
Sell the horses, and if you can't sell them, sell the tab.
Yes. Yes.
That first year, I remember we didn't get the paycheck right away, and I was, oh shit, how am I going to get home?
Right.
Yeah. I called my dad. Dad, wire me some money.
No kidding.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Luckily, they had a bucking horse that they had sold, and he had a blue eye. Well, they didn't realize he was blind in it, and he was just north up in Oklahoma, a couple hours. So he's like, yeah, just run up and grab him, and because otherwise I got to pay a shipper to ship him home.
Yeah.
So we had three little horses, you know, Slash and Clickety Clack, or Sophisticated Shania, they named her. And then I can't remember the other one, but we get to this place with these bucking horses, you know, and this one, his name is Goliath. And so we pull these three little bitty horses out of our trailer, and it's a 4-star aluminum weekender. And you know, the front divider was for stallions. It was well made, and 4-stars were pretty well made. So
Shout out 4-star.
we chased this bucking horse that probably weighs 1,500 pounds and is, you know, 16 and a half hands into that front divider, and we get it shut on him, right? And we're all feeling, you know, real tough or whatever, and thinking we really did this. And he was nice. He just stayed in there. So then we go to loading these other horses. And they had loaded fine here, you know, they were right out of the sale, you know, and this little one, the Slash, we get to the last, and she don't want to go in there. So these guys had just like felt like they pushed this 1,400-pound bucking horse in there, you know. So they just grab her and go to shoving her in, and she turned around like a cat and crawled back up over the top of them. I'm like, hey guys, let's hold on. I'll just get her myself. You guys stay on the day, I'll get her.
Yeah.
You know, we got her loaded real easy after we did like the whole horse trainer thing with her. So yeah, that sends you some money. We had some money to get home. It worked fine. But that was right after my moment when I was like, yeah, I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
How am I going to get home?
Yeah.
Oh, my dad.
That's awesome.
Tell me about that experience, because I wasn't around the cutting horse world in those days, and I know Jeremy wasn't doing the Western bloodstock at that point, I don't think. But what was that like coming to town for the very first time? Because it can be intimidating. I know I was intimidated when I first started coming around. I didn't know what a priority was. I didn't know what certain things were, and I felt like an idiot. But yeah, if you're showing up to sell a 2-year-old, how was that experience for the very first time?
Yeah, just terrifying. Just completely terrifying. Yeah, and luckily I was coming from so far away that like by the time I got here, it was kind of hard to leave, and I didn't really know what it's going to be like till I was already here. If I lived up the road and kind of had a sense of how out of my league I was, I probably wouldn't have ever come. Like I don't think I'd ever been here until I guess I was here the year before and I bought one. But I was too scared to watch the 2-year-old sell even, I think, because I was like, because I just felt like such an imposter that I felt like I was going to do this next year. I just couldn't even deal with that right now. So the first time I think I saw the 2-year-old sales when I was selling one, even though I was obsessed with it, I was just too scared to watch it. But yeah, super intimidating. But that's how I felt about it. That really wasn't what it was like. And it would be so cool because I think there's a lot of new people at this year's sale, and it would be so cool if they can hear this, I hope, before they have to go do it, because it's scary for you, but everyone else totally gets it, and it's totally cool. Like I went that very first year, I took this horse that I was about to sell for $14,000. I took him to the practice pen because like no one was calling me about this horse. No, there was zero activity on this horse. And I went to dang Hobby Lobby and got me a chalk marker. And I was going to come in here for a week before the sale with his lot number on his hip as though it was the sale day. Cause I'm like, how are people going to know that when I'm working this horse, this isn't like, anyways, I never did get the balls to do that, but I had the marker. But I just go to the practice pen by myself. I had no one here to like turn back for me. I just thought I'll go in there by myself and just like be here and maybe randomly yell out like 2-year-old for sale. Like I just didn't know what you're supposed to do. And, but somehow I got the courage. I'm in the practice pen. Don Ben Willis is working, who's like my idol to this day, by the way, but certainly at that time. And I don't know, just like act of God or something, like somehow I got the courage to ask him, of all things. I feel weird about it, talking about it. I asked Adon to turn back for me on my little $14,000 2-year-old in the practice pen. How I got the balls to do that, I don't know. I'm embarrassed telling the story, but was he like, he easily could have been like, and who are you? Like, no, I'm going to go show this $1 million horse, or like, I'm kind of busy, bro. But he was just like, absolutely, which is crazy. And he Don Van Willis turned back for Greg from Canada on his $14,000 2-year-old as if I was his equal. It was the most bizarre thing. And afterwards, I was like, what should I do different? That's a whole other podcast. But he gave me a few little short tips that he took the time to give me, that each one, he should have charged me $100,000 for each tip he gave me, because they changed my life. And it was just for free. And then later I saw him at the sale or something, and he like pulled me aside. He's like, oh, I thought of one other thing, and gave me that one. And that's a great story about Adon, who I think is such a cool person. But I've had that, you name the big name trainer, Jesse Lennox, Wes, like all these guys, but Bo Gallion, Austin Shepard, Lloyd Cox, on and on. You name the big name trainer, they were super cool to me before they had any idea who I was. And I tell people this from Canada that haven't been here, they're like, what's it like? And I tell them all the time, because it's so true, walking into a cutting in Canada is more intimidating than walking in here. I mean, it isn't at first, but you're received you're received as though you've been here every day and they know you. Like,
What's the difference?
The reception isn't as warm somehow. And it's not bad. It's just everyone's very caught up in what they're doing. And so if you're a new person there, nobody does. And that's not true, but it can be true that people don't stop what they're doing to say hello when they notice that you're a new face that's never been here. They're just like, there's a new face, and they do their thing. We're here, like, I remember that very first year, Bo Gallion looked me in the eye and said hello, and I thought he was confused and he thought he knew me, the way that he said it. Because surely Bo Gallion, who I've seen on posters for years, would not look me in the eye and say hello as if he even cared. Like, but he did. He wasn't confused, I don't think. He was just like, here's a new guy, say hello, like a human being would. But there's a lot of places you go, people don't do that. And it just, I never would have expected that the biggest stage that I dreamed one day I'd be on, when I got to that stage, they were the nicest people in the world. Like this guy right here is the nicest person I know on the face of the earth. And I don't know Richard is good, but I'm starting to decide he's the same. So's this guy. And they couldn't be bigger names. It's crazy.
Man, what I've learned, I've sat down, I've had the pleasure to sit down with very accomplished people on this podcast. And through that, I've gotten to connect and meet people. And this is my opinion, my experience is, the farther up the success ladder, it's like the more welcoming they are. And this is a blanket statement, and it doesn't apply to everybody. But for the most part, it's like they're grateful for where they are, and they were once where you are. And so it's like they're reaching down with a hand to pull you up. And those that haven't made it, they are a little bit bitter.
Yeah, or they're just so busy grinding still, or they've got so much.
Judgy is the word that comes to my mind. It's
you run into that.
Yeah, but those at the top, they're not judging. Oh, those that are doing better than you will never judge you. Something along those lines. I know I'm butchering it, but and it's true. And if they do, they just let you know they're not doing better.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and you can't expect people to see you that you're hiding from, and so. And whenever I was young and first doing this, I came from Abilene. I'd only been to Fort Worth, I think, one time. Whenever I was a kid, we went to Six Flags once. And so I'd never been to town like this or anything. And so when I come up here, like, I would just kind of hide around from everybody. And then I had this misconception that everybody was kind of jerks around here because they wouldn't speak to me. Well, guess what? I wouldn't speak to anybody myself, and I'm just a little old kid, And so the more I got into this industry and being around people and then now that I'm here, that I really, it's important to me to see those people that feel like they're not seen, and the year I had Smooth Talking Style, he went to Lloyd Cox, and Lloyd went on and finished training the horse and showed him at the Futurity, and then and then he told people where that horse came from, and he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But he did. And what that single thing of him doing that did for my career was amazing. Just for him to share that I was the one that started that horse and put the foundation, and that was just life-changing for me. It really boosted the amount of horses I got, the quality of horses that I got, and he did that for me, and he didn't have to do that. Yeah. So
I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. So you mentioned tearing up during that first.
Yeah, you did.
I almost said futurity, and it is kind of like the 2-year-old trainer's futurity when y'all take them to this Western bloodstock sale. And I know there's a number of ways to sell horses. We're at the futurity, the NCHA Futurity, and that is a big deal, the Western bloodstock sale that's coming up. So that's what we're focused on now. But y'all have all sold horses for a lot of money, $500,000, $700,000, over $1 million. When y'all hear that, when you hear Steve Frisk up on the mic and those numbers keep going up, can y'all describe that feeling, knowing what y'all just did the previous year, training this thing? Describe that feeling.
Well, it's a lot different than it used to be. Now it's a lot more familiar, and it's a lot. When we first started, though, like your Cheese My Choice, when we first hit it out of the park, it was unbelievable, because you're like, it's a culmination of years and years of work being rewarded.
Yeah.
And being rewarded in a way big, where you're realizing that you're gonna,
Amigo.
you're gonna get to not only keep doing this, but you're gonna pay your hay bill this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. You actually are making money doing this, and so it's
crazy.
yeah.
Because you do it for free.
Yeah, and so the first few, I don't think you could ever get that going again. Now it's super rewarding, but it's different. I mean, now the pressure's on to do it, whereas before, there was this excitement to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there's this expectation now that you've said? I feel like anytime you start something, you just go do it, and now you've raised this level of expectation.
And we're getting better and better horses to work with, to start with, and we expect it, and so there's a pressure to do it, but it's not like the end of the world if it doesn't happen this year, and it's not world changing, or not world changing, but life changing, as far as your amount of money that you get to spend on your basic day-to-day life. It's not life changing. It's probably going to go on okay either way, and so it's not as important as it used to be, but at the same time, it's more just about trying to make another horse that reigns, I guess. More trying to win in the sell pen for me.
Speaking of, I think I just saw a post on Facebook. Your horses have gone on to win over $6 million.
Yeah. So
Is that right?
I have, with Todd Nelson, doing all the stuff, I actually have stats. You said we didn't have stats. I have the stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. That's impressive.
That's crazy.
That would be it'd be interesting to see what Wes's stats or Gregg's are at this point already, with no more horses than Greg. So yeah, it's interesting to see what other people's stats are, but yeah, Todd keeps track of all that stuff, and it's very cool.
Well, and somebody that we did a little deal, we talked yesterday about Gerald Alexander, and like him, I would love to know like what his stats were, because that guy, he's really the reason we have a job, because he,
Really?
He decided, I'm going to stay home, and these guys are going down the road. And because used to, every trainer had their 2-year-old guy at home.
Right.
And there was a guy at home that rode the 2-year-olds, and for each and every trainer. And then Gerald, really specialized in that, and had the talent and ability to do it, stayed home and really created what we get to do now. Yeah. And I would say a large portion of the horses winning back in the day were from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really is what caused it to boom,
It
was
did.
his success.
Oh, totally. Yeah, we have to credit him for that.
Yeah, Mark Michaels with Performance Horse Central. If you're listening, we'd like to see those statistics.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that'd be right up his alley.
Yeah.
That and turnback horse earnings.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how much turnback horse earnings are out
I would
there.
say Lloyd's got everybody beat.
Yeah. Lloyd Clay's getting close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Wes? So, was Would She Be Magic the first horse to sell at a public auction for over $1 million for
Yeah.
Western Bloodstock?
Yeah.
Well, in the Western performance world, I believe
Yeah.
she was the first horse to go over $1 million. Yeah.
So that was a special moment. I was in the arena, and then there's photos everywhere with you and that mare after she
Yeah.
sold. Can you describe that feeling?
Well, so I bought her out of the sale as a yearling, and I didn't have the money to buy her. I actually, you don't have to write that sale check until the last day of the sales, and so I bought her, knowing I wanted her. Well, I bought a couple of horses the year before that just were kind of plain looking, and nice horses. But I told myself, I said, I'm fixing to buy one. Then when they walk in the ring, they're gonna see her. About 3 horses later, Would She Be Magic walks in there with that big bald face, and I thought this is the one. And so I give $27,000 for her, and then and I could have sold her to a client, but I really just had this gut feeling that this was my horse, And so I spend the next several days trying to sell another horse that I had to try to get up the money to pay for her. And the last day of the sales, I actually got that horse sold for just enough money to pay for her. And so I go in there and pay for her, and then, ride her a year and come back to the sale. But she was, another horse that from the start, I just felt greatness in her. Like she was just a very cool horse. But even then, like to say a horse is worth $1 million, I just can't say that. Like, I remember when I was buying them for $1,000 and selling them for $3,500, I thought I was doing great. And so that's just something way beyond anything that I even expected or could imagine, And I had some strong offers before the sale that I turned down, and Jeremy just kept telling me, nope, just trust the process. We're not going to sell out. We're going to, and his view of it is that, you have somebody fly from Australia or across the country to come look at any particular horse, and then that sells before the sale, that's not, good for business. Bad for business. And I agree with that. And so we just stay true to the process and go on with it. But yeah, but the day of the sale, I had just a feeling, that something amazing was about to happen. And I actually was up top where they warm up upstairs, before you go down the ramp, about 10 horses before. And I was riding around up there, and a friend of mine was up there, Chris Lawrence. He was riding around, and he rode by me, and he said, "Is this your good one?" And I said, "Well, this is her." Yeah. And he actually, as I'm riding around, he starts praying over me and my horse that God would bless me before I go down there. And I'm telling you, it gives me chills just thinking about that. But he did. He's just trotting behind me, praying over me and this horse out loud, as I'm trotting around there. And I go down in there, and it's just an experience I can't even explain. I go in there, and as I'm working her, I just feel like I'm going with the cow, but I don't even know how to explain it. It's just happening, and I work a few cows, and then I just quit because the first bid was $100,000, and it just took off from there. And
Did you set a reserve?
I don't think I did, no, because Jeremy just told me, he said, "We've got so much interest in this horse, just trust the process, let him bid." And so and so we did. And
Wow.
If Chris Lawrence is around tomorrow, I'll be showing in the 7th set. If he wants to come around,
lay hands on your horse. Yeah. I'm telling you, it works. Yeah. No, but
Make a good living.
no, but to being honest, like, $1 million is an amazing thing, but I can tell you the feeling, the reason I got emotional in that pen right there, it wasn't the amount of money. It was just, it really was just the feeling of God's blessings being poured over my family, I was over $1 million in debt. So, we actually were in church like 3 months later, after that. And the preacher he said, how much money would you have to feel like you were like content, and felt well taken care of for the next year? And he said, I'll just give you the answer. Most people would say it's double what you make. So whatever you make, if you had twice that much, then you would feel confident that you were good, And so, but he said, what if I told you I was going to give you $1 million? How would that make you feel? Well, here we are. We just made $1 million. 3 months later, we don't have any of it because we paid our place off. We're just back, broke again. And so I was just like, well, yeah, I mean, it can go real fast, you know, but yeah, more than money, it was really a cool experience just to feel, you know, just to feel well taken care of, you know, and by God, you know, I guess, you know, just it was an unbelievable feeling that I'll never forget. Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I remember day before you sold that mare, going to watch her in the practice pen. You remember Austin was there and Johnny was there, and we were there watching her, and I was like, you could tell by who all was involved in the watching you work her that it was going to be insane.
Yeah. And every, you know, that mare actually, we didn't get to work her for a couple of weeks before, you know, we got down here, and she had a little break there. And then when we got here, Austin said, hey, I want to see that mare when you get ready to work her. And I said, well, I'm giving her some time off. But as soon as, let me get a couple of works on her. And so I sneak in there early, you know, like I'm going to slip around and get worked in here without nobody seeing this, you know, and I go in there, nobody around. So I slip down there to the pen. And as soon as I go to walk into the herd, Austin walks in, and he said, you about to work your mare? I said, I'm telling you, I haven't got to work her. You know, he's like, it's okay, just work her. And I cut 2 cows, and she couldn't have been any better.
Yeah.
And so then I think I just ride her the next day. And then the next day I'm like, well, I just need to get in there by myself, you know, again. And so I go in there and sure enough, here he comes, you know. So
You're like, do I have an air tag on?
oh, I know. But I work 1 cow on her, and I really wanted him to just step on her, you know, and just, and so I work 1 cow on her, and I said, well, there's no better time to try her than now, just if you hop on her. And so he did, and he drove up there, worked the cow on her, and it, you know, it was good. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
So cool.
What about that process? The whole trying them week before. What's the most annoying thing you hear guys ask you when they call? What's the brutal question? Is it which one's the best, or which one's going to be a steal? Which one do you think you're going to get showed bad, but it's going to win?
Yeah, I mean, that's the trickiest deal about all of this is this, you know, we're selling them for a lot of money, you know, and so, you know, trying to, you know, let people see them, and all these guys are busy. I mean, they're working, and so trying to line all that up and getting all the people there at the right time, and also that trying to manage your horse, because you can run these things out of gas in a hurry. I mean, trying to show them off, because I know it in the past, you know, that's why I did the little deal yesterday, just trying to get worked where multiple people could see them at once, because that's the hardest thing about the whole process for me is lining up all the people that you would like to have the opportunity to see them, you know, because watching the video is one thing, but then I think people need to see them live in person at some point. And so trying to get that orchestrated, you know, is a very difficult process.
I think the most difficult one is, do you guys get this? They want to know, people want to know, and I get why. They want to know what the reserve is going to be, if there's going to be one. And that one I get, but then they want to know, what is this horse going to bring? And I get why as a trainer, I kind of, and I thought of this today, because I almost asked somebody that on their 2-year-old, and I'm like, oh no, I'm doing it now. But you want to know, because you're like, should I bother doing my homework on this one, or getting the customer excited? But it's impossible to answer, because I'm like, we will all find out at the same time when Steve Frisco tells us. I have no idea. And I obviously hope a million, but in my heart of hearts, surely the truth will finally come out, and this one will sell like for 14, like my first one did, and like we'll go back to normal. But I'm not going to say that, but I just don't know. But I always struggle with that question. The reserve one, but especially, what is this horse going to bring?
Yeah.
But yeah, and some guys I notice never ask, like, and I guess the guys that have been buyers a lot of times, I guess they see the futility of that question, and they don't want to hear me humming haw, so they just don't ask the question. But yeah,
I'm curious to know y'all's opinion on this. So I feel like trainers that go show are somewhat at a disadvantage when it comes to like the sales process, right? Why is it people are going to automatically think, why is a Don Banuelos selling that horse? Why is Austin? There's something wrong with that horse, right? So there's like that's the downside to being successful and winning in the show pen. But for you guys as 2-year-olds, or 2-year-old trainers, sorry, it's like this trade-off because they know you're training these things to go sell, but I feel like this is where I want to get y'all's opinion. It's like this trade-off of I'm selling the opportunity and possibility to go win a lot of money and a lot of buckles on this horse. Does that ever creep into y'all's mind as far as like, gosh, man, this is a good one. Maybe I go show this. Maybe I keep it and go down the.
When I had that mare Racy Moon that I talked about, like I got to keep her into her 3-year-old year, and I did not want to see that horse leave, you know. But at the time in my career, I had no one that would even step towards, you know, paying what she brought, you know, and so. But it was really hard for me to see that horse leave, and because in my mind, this is the last great horse I'm ever going to get to ride because it's the first one I've ever rode. You know, that was that good.
Yeah.
But after that process and going through it, you know, I try to, you know, I love these horses that I'm getting to train, and I try to, you know, care well for them and that, but I try not to allow myself to get so attached to them that, which it's hard. I mean, but and I guess what makes it even better is whenever if they go to the right home, you know, you know, and that, you know, they've got a shot to go do what we would like for them to do. I think that's when you kind of get a good feeling about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Greg?
I don't exactly remember the question, but I remember what.
Well, you and I talked about it the other night. For folks listening, we're all in a pickleball league. Me, Jesse Lois, and Gregg
You guys
Garvie.
have probably heard about it, seen it on ESPN.
We go to the pub after, and we were talking about there's this trade-off, you know, like, you know, you're going to train this thing and sell it, and it's like, gosh dang, do I keep this and show it and launch my show career, or do I sell it and a lot of money and build somebody else's program?
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if Jess remembers, but you told me that with Jess Rebelling, so that was a whole journey, and it started off amazing and like, holy cow, we have a good one and we're going to sell it for a good amount of money. And then come to find out he had a little x-ray problem, and by the time we were done down here at the Futurity sale, I could not give that horse away, and it was like rock bottom, and I had the like, how do I pay to get home problem. I had all the problems, and we did a little surgery, fixed his x-ray problem, sold them, it all turned out good. But at right around rock bottom, and that's right around the time I first met Jesse, really, and I was working at Rock and P with Jesse, and I worked the horse, and I remember Jesse saying, you should spend some time thinking, do you want to show? Because if because at that time I was partners with my parents, he's like, if my family owned this horse, I would not sell it for any amount of money. If you're going to go, and that's what he said, this horse will make your whole thing. Yeah. And I think another time I was sitting watching the Futurity around that time, because I was kind of going back and forth, because that time it was going to be a pretty easy decision. I couldn't give this horse away. I think someone turned me down at the end for $50,000. I begged them to give me $50,000 for this horse. Thank God they said no, looking back, but they did say no. So I'm sitting here at the Futurity by myself and watching and thinking, could I do this? And I remember saying that to you, and you were like, on that horse you could. Totally. I think it wasn't a compliment to me. You were like, on that horse, anybody could. A monkey could, yes. Yeah. But I remember giving it some thought and being like, no, this is what I want to do, is sell them to the guys that know how to do that thing. And anyway, the other little story about it. So why I find it quite easy to sell them, especially when it's a good one, especially when it's for a lot of money. I actually got it. But even at the very beginning of my horse training career, all I did was train horses for horse rescues and like the SPCA basically. And I was not a cowboy. I'm still not a cowboy, even though I have the hat, but I did not grow up in this world at all. And anyways, so just as like a city kid getting into it, looking back, I'm not surprised that's the end of horses I got into. That's, I think, what a lot of people having no context, that seems like, let's help the horses that need the help, I guess. And in a short amount of time, I was like, one, I'm not sure we're rescuing them from much, and two, this one rescue in particular, they had a thing when you bought a horse from them, which was like, it cost $400 or $500 to adopt one of these horses. They made you sign a contract being like, I promise I'll feed him good and call the vet if he gets hurt and all this stuff. and I wasn't a lawyer, but I knew enough to know this thing wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. You sign it and throw it in the trash and go do whatever you want with the horse. And sure enough, this rescue mostly was rescuing horses back over and over from the people that bought the horses. Because if you can only afford a $500 horse, it's hard to buy the feed and pay the vet and all the things. So it worked out pretty fast that the kindest thing you can do for a horse is make it valuable. And if someone spends a lot on a horse, they're going to call the vet if it gets hurt, and they're going to look after it. And all these guys showing like these horses have the best possible care and attention of any horse on the face of the earth. So when you buy one for $1 million, it gets looked after. And when you buy one for $1 million, it's your favorite, or that's why you bought it for $1 million. Like Austin on that mare and that whole story, you know, she got petted 10 times more than some other horses in the barn. Like she was special. So I last year I sold one, the best one I sold, and it went to a Dawn, and I teared up a little just walking in there because I just loved this horse and I wasn't going to get to ride her again. But when I rode out, or especially when I knew where she went, I was so excited for her. Like, she's going to have a better life than I could ever possibly give her.
Which horse was that, Greg?
They call her IRR Spring Fling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, I know that's so true. As much as I would love to be the guy that can give her the best life, I'm not.
Well, what about you, Richard? Back to the question of, do you ever think about like what you're trading off by selling off these horses?
None at all. I was not going to show horses for a living at all. I sat there and watched the videos, just same videos as Jesse watched, of Kathy Dawn winning.
Yeah.
Was this like, oh yeah, and then, like right at the end of that video, there was the classical CD with Paul Hansma, and then Spooky's Cash. That was a good year. Anyway, I watched that and I was like, I got to teach horses how to do this. And then I started showing and some shit. I don't like showing at all. Just don't like it. It's just, you go to the show and you only get to ride a little bit here and there, and you got to talk the rest of the time.
Yeah, I have that problem too. I don't have enough stories.
This is
Yeah.
this is perfect for me.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You get to do the stuff where you train them, but you don't actually have to go to the show.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't mind.
So it's not like a nerves thing. Like, it's not about like being nervous before a show or the competition.
Have you seen when Richard does show?
Oh, he fucking kills it in Idaho.
He
Yeah.
never marks less than like a
every year.
225, and then he disappears again back to wherever he lives. The moon, I think.
Yeah, it's not a question of whether he can or he can't compete. It's like whether you like to compete or like the feeling, like.
I definitely like the way I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
And actually it's all kind of coming full circle. My youngest son is a junior this year, and so after he graduates, we got to decide, do we just keep doing this for the rest of our lives, or do we kind of take a shot at the Futurity, and come though here a couple of weeks early and show. But I really think that I probably just keep doing what I'm doing.
You just let the cat out of the bag, man. You just excited so many people when they.
Okay.
All right.
Not next year, the year after.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah.
A whole bunch.
And what he's saying is, you got 2 more years to make some money, get Eric.
Yeah.
I'm selling my favorites again this year. And next year, don't worry about it.
And then you're coming to knock Lloyd off the goat status.
I have had the thought, I'm gonna, because I did it last year, and I might just do this every year. I'm gonna keep my worst one and train it and show it, and just to try to demonstrate like what's the worst case scenario if you buy my group of horses, and I'm gonna really hope that the worst one at least trains and cuts like. So this one did look terrible, I'll grant you that, but it still cut. So if you're not sure about the one that kind of looks medium, you probably should buy it, because it's going to cut and then some. And I thought about that. Every year I'm going to keep my worst one.
I think it's got good educational value. What you did this year, like you said, he trained his weakest one from his last year's crop, and it just working around you, it just looked like it helps to get in the show pen. I know Richard, I go to Idaho and I always fangirl out when he shows up, as you could imagine, and we all like try to watch him work, because it's our only chances other than the very filtered Facebook page that we're getting to see, where he won't even post his lead rope video.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the secret shit's not on there, so we finally get to see him under pressure in the practice pen, just banging out these 225s on the one that nobody would buy off him, I guess. And yeah, it looks like it just keeps everybody relevant. And this year I asked him if he'd catch ride for me at Futurity, and he said, no, I don't like showing untrained horses, but as he's like,
I rode for him last year. That was a good call.
yeah,
Okay.
and Wes did too.
I second that.
It's the only one I hadn't suckered into it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we get to pick behind Aaron Termino.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Since the early 80s, Bluebonnet has built a reputation for safe, reliable feeds. Today, they've evolved into a company that puts the horse at the center of everything they do. Every formula for every species is backed by science, guided by in-house PhD nutritionists, and supported by a world-class team. With the horse-first philosophy, Bluebonnet helps make advanced nutrition effortless.
A question I always have that I'm curious about y'all's process is how do you source your yearlings? You know, we've all kind of agreed that takes a special horse, and you've all found one every year.
There's so many to pick from.
Yeah. How many? Yeah.
And I know these aren't all yearlings, but probably this many are.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
670 yearlings, I think, or something like that.
You know, and if you're trying to, you only have so much manpower. You got to start with a limited group of colts. You're only going to break so many. You've all been successful in bringing a great one to town every year, sometimes multiple ones in a year. Walk us through a little bit of what the process, what you look for, what, budget it takes to buy those horses when they are a year old, or find them various, really whatever.
Well, especially in today's time, because I'm curious to know like what you're looking for today versus Wes just told us a story. He bought 2 yearlings years ago for $5,000 a pop, and so
Yeah.
what is today's money? And
I want to hear Richard, because I think Richard's unique from Wes and I, maybe, because you got a team with Todd. And
he takes care of that pretty much completely.
That's
I don't
crazy.
worry about that. I think for us, I just leave that in his court, and I just try not to even worry about it. And he started breeding some, and I completely argued with him on that, because I was pretty set on that plan, just buying sort of what was down here, where so many people were selling such nice horses. It looked to me like for basically cheaper than you could raise that horse. And why not just buy those after they raised them, and they're sound and straight and big and pretty. But he started raising some too, and he does that part of it. I don't get too worried about that, but I have no answer. You guys,
do you have any influence on that though? Like, I'm sure you'll have conversations about, and he asked your opinion on
the couple of the mares that we keep, I've had a little bit of influence on and stuff, but no, I don't. I try not to, as far as buying them, I try not to have any influence on it. That way I have something that I can, he can blame me if I show up on sale day and one's wrong, not behaving itself. And this way I can blame him if, he buys one that's not any good either.
Yeah, smart.
I got to have somewhere where I can take the pressure off a leak.
And how many do you typically start a year?
10 to.
This year we started like 32 or something. I'm this lot.
32. Did y'all buy all of those at the sale last year?
No, he buys them a lot of different places.
So just throughout the year.
Yeah, throughout the year, and then raises a couple. I mean, maybe
Gotcha.
10 or something.
Gotcha. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, that's good. And then, so 32, you start them all with the goal of they come to Futurity sale, and then how do you work your weed out process, or what's the game plan there?
Typically speaking, I'm the only one riding them, and so if I don't get along with them, we sell them. But this year, I the last couple of years I had Todd Bays working for me, and I wouldn't get along with them, and then he'd make them look way better than the ones I like, and so Todd kept them all. But and kind of threw a kink in things a little bit this year. But usually, the ones that I don't get along with too good, if Todd really watches them and sees something he likes, I'll keep working at them. But if he doesn't see anything he likes, I don't feel anything I like.
Yeah.
They can go a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just it's a numbers game. There's only so many of these good colts. I don't care how good they're bred. There's only so many of them that are going to be really good horses.
What is the out for those that y'all call? Like, what's the exit strategy on those? Where do y'all?
Sold a lot of them at Susie Reed sale. And a lot of the guys that talk to me, maybe they're not team penners. What's the other deal now? With
Sorting.
team sorters, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's tons of these little athletic cow horses it's not like they're cheap anymore either. They're still almost what you paid for.
Right.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And is there any sort of budget he tries to stick to on the crop as a whole, or it's just what catches his eye and what he thinks will work?
We made last year.
Yeah. What about for you, Wes? How's the picking process go?
Well, once I actually got to the point that I was making money at doing this, when I first started, I thought the number for me was 20,000. If I gave in that 20 range, give or take, then I could take that horse, add my training onto it, and then if it was a horse that had decent pedigree, x-rayed clean, and I could take that investment, bring it back a year later, and that horse would if it was a nice horse, would bring my investment back and pay me for my training. And but if it was beyond that, well, then it was good. Yeah. But then now, that $20,000 horse turned into what is now a $40,000 horse.
Yeah.
And that's bare minimal now. I believe.
Yeah.
And then I think it's really, from 50 beyond, if you're trying to buy, the top pedigree, the conformation you would like.
Yeah.
And it's so tough now because, I mean, all of us are here and we're all bidding for the same thing, and that really has driven the market up.
Yeah. I think, to me, Richard and Todd totally break that mold. Yeah. So a lifetime ago, I did like a finance degree and I worked in that industry for about 5 minutes. But I very much come at this with like a business background and a lot of Excel spreadsheets, which are really cool and sexy. And I totally agree with some of the things you just said. Like what used to cost 20 in the course of about 2 years, really 1 year. There was 1 year when all those just doubled. It just cost 40 for the same quality horse.
Yellowstone.
Yeah, that year, whatever year, a bunch of things, COVID, a bunch of things happened, and I don't think this is a bubble. I think it just was, a dam kind of broke, and they're now worth what they're supposed to be worth. But yeah, like what you just said, the $20,000 yearlings are now 40, and the crazy thing is if they come back just okay, they still sell for what they sold before. That part hasn't really doubled. The upside's obviously gone up, but the bottom side's sort of where it always was, so it's changed. But Richard and Todd totally break the mold. They somehow find horses for a fraction of what it cost the rest of us. I don't know how. It's crazy. And I guess I don't know that, but you guys are complete outlier. I don't know how you guys do it, but you're exceptional at finding horses. But yeah, I think just think about the budget thing, because that was a hot topic for me when I first started, and Dustin got it. He gave me some phone numbers. You should call these guys, figure out how you get into this business and how much money it's going to take to get started. And Hayden upped, and so I called a few different people. They did kind of have answers, and I asked Hayden, like, how much do you have to spend to buy a good horse? And he's such a smart guy that it so like goes against the grain or just does his thing. And he basically was like, that's an absurd question. To be like saying in real estate, like, how much do you have to spend for a good investment? Like, I don't know, whatever a good investment costs. They come at cheap prices, they come at expensive prices. Like He's like, I spend whatever it costs to buy something that I think has a profit in it. And that is truer and truer every year as the market kind of evolves. I think that if you see one and you're like, I'm best, medium case scenario, this horse will bring 500, you can give a lot for that horse. And then if you see another one, you're like, that's a nice horse and it's cheap, but it's cheap for a reason that next year it's going to also sell cheap because it has a hickey on its x-rays, or its pedigree's not the best, or it's small and just not pretty. Like you feel like you found a diamond in the rough, but they're going to give you diamond in the rough price next year as well.
Right.
And therefore it's a bad buy.
I'm curious to know, so like now there's some videos of yearlings and you can get an idea of their athleticism, but are y'all looking at conformation or are you looking at bloodlines first? What's the first thing y'all look at?
Well, when I open up that book, I go through there and look at pedigrees, is what I look at, and then I mark my book that way, and then I get the x-ray lists, and then I'll go through and I'll check off the ones that x-ray clean. Well, then whenever those horses get here, I go to their stall, walk in their stall, and I want to move around and get a feel for them. And then if the fitter's there, I'd like to see them walk down the aisle, because I really like for those horses to walk wide in their back end, because I mean, that's everything that they do is off their back feet. And so, I'm not saying it's 100% on that, but that's something that I look for. I'd like to see them walk. And then, so those three things. So just because the horses aren't here, it's a lot of horses to go through. So my process of elimination already has started, of just going through, marking down the potential, pedigrees that I like. And then after that, I'll, see if they x-ray clean. And so then that wipes out, the ones that aren't for me. And then I move forward to looking at them in person.
Right on. So pedigree first for you.
Well, just because they're not here yet. And I just,
But do you look online though?
yeah, I just kind of go with that's the way I've always done it, is get the book and start.
Yeah.
When I get the book in the mail, I start, going through it. And yeah.
I know you're going to defer to Todd on this, but I know you look and peek. Are you looking at bloodlines more so than conformation, or vice versa?
Well, I think, like Greg was saying, Todd tends to look for something we can get bought more reasonable. And I think the biggest thing to look for is a big brood mare, maybe out of the stud, that's not quite as equal. If you can find one of those, usually they'll sell a little more reasonable, and that stud might be popular by the time we get back here. And that's
No doubt. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think his deal, usually is this: can you find a horse that maybe doesn't have the top 10 stud, but maybe a big time mare and big time grand dam, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I would love if I could go see them all in person live way ahead of time, every single one. And so I try to do as much as I can and do pedigree last. And I loved anytime I have the opportunity to just park the pedigree and just show up to a fitting place and just ideally watch them round pen them all. And also, like, I love the part of it when they're round penning them, when they tie them up, and just see which ones. This is just something I learned over years of breaking colts, like them horses that seem to just be comfortable on planet Earth. Like, just the act of being alive is quite easy for them, because there's some horses that it seems like just getting through the day is a lot for them. It's all they can do just to go get from morning to night and get a little hay in their belly. And those ones also seem to struggle in the training process. And those ones that, when they're tied up with a string of other yearlings, the one that acts like a 10-year-old is just like, oh, another day of this. Those ones, they've had the same life the rest of them have, and yet they're finding it very easy to do this process. More often than not, that one finds every process you put them in pretty easy. So I love to just get around them with a lot of time on my hands ahead of time. But it's hard. So the idea of like just walking into the stall, say I love and buying them, I've not done well when I do that, which is it. I get fight in my head because I know Wes has done very well doing that. And Jesse, you've told me in the past, that's the only way you do well. And if you do too much homework, you've done poorly. And I'm the opposite. I feel very confident. If I see one ahead of time and I feel confident, then I feel very confident throwing a lot of money at that horse, and it's usually worked out. So I love to be able to see him and then go back and be like, hey, I love this horse. What is it? And you're usually not surprised. That's the crazy thing. Usually the papers are pretty strong when it's been that kind of horse. I'm fighting my head right now because I saw one 2 days ago that I was like, all in. I will give the ranch for this horse. And I flipped open the book. I'm still skeptical, but it is the weakest pedigree in the book. Wow. And I'm like, yeah, that never happens. Yeah. Like I'm fixing to buy this horse and send its hair off for DNA because there is no way this thing's out of Showbiz Kitty or something. But the papers, there is not a money earner to be found. It's bizarre. Yeah, but the round pen thing for sure, and also that's something I just copied from Hayden Upton. I got to break his 2-year-olds for a couple of years, and which was crazy because he paid me to do it, and yet really I was breaking horses, but I was just watching him over the fence, peppering him with questions, trying to steal all his knowledge, and it was such a scam because he gave me a check at the end. But the very first year I was like, man, this round pen and these fitters, they just do a terrible job, don't you think? They just scare these horses and chop them off and whoosh them into the fence, and it's just chaos. You can't see anything. And he was not biting, and he was like, well, it's an excellent way to evaluate how a horse changes direction in a small space. And I was like, oh, okay. You've done a lot better than me, so I'm going to abandon what I thought and go with what you thought. And I went with it for a couple of years, and it turned out pretty good. Like, just one that's acting like a freak when it doesn't know it's supposed to tends to act like a freak when you explain that they're supposed to. Yeah. Yeah, I'm big on that, and just and I think years of not doing this and just breaking horses for people, and I was always round penning those horses, and just kind of like built a baseline of like being able to predict when they round pen like this, probably I'm going to have an easy time starting this one, and that one, it's just giving me vibes that this one's going to be a lot of work. I feel like I must have built an instinct that now when I watch from round pen, I just get a vibe of like, this one's going to be a lot. Yeah. And then this one that I can't actually explain to you why it's different, but this one, I'm in love with this one. I think it's just because I got to do it with like 1,000 horses before I ever did a cutting horse.
I've got a question that I like to ask just about every show. Do you have a favorite failure? And what I mean is like, when you're going through it, it sucks and you don't know why, but you come out on the other end of this thing and you're like, oh shit, this had to happen so I could get here, right? Do you have a favorite failure as it relates to your profession, your craft?
No, I think I better skip this question. Oh,
yeah. What about you, Jess? I'll ask you.
Actually,
I'm sure you've answered this on the show before, but
I think just, maybe, it's arguably, I think a lot of people will argue it wasn't even my fault, but I did recently kiss my mother-in-law on the lips. So yeah, I'm kind of going through some shit right now. And the chapstick was cherry. And I'd already gone Christmas shopping and got her stocking stuffers, lip chap and Tic Tacs. And that was an accident. This is pre-kid. So on some level, does that mean it was already on my mind? I don't know. Your mother-in-law's pretty hot. What do you think?
I have not made that mistake, no.
Yet. He's only 3 weeks into being married, we should bring up.
It's not a failure because it worked out really good. But
yes. Yeah. Is that what she said?
Certainly a hard time that I don't think I'd have the courage to go through again if I knew it was coming up. But that experience of selling Just Rebelling was the hardest time of my life. But looking back, thank God it happened in so many ways. But or even the first one I sold for that 14,000. What I didn't say is he went on to make the open finals at the Snaffle Bit Futurity the next year. So that was a bit validating of like, oh, I didn't completely destroy the horse, I guess, or I didn't pick a terrible horse. I didn't get him sold, but I wasn't all wrong. That was a good one. But JR, that's a story I'll tell myself for my whole life because it was just such a high and low. But that was a horse I bought him for not very much, and I thought he was cool, but I didn't know. But then all year I'm like, oh, I've never rode one like this, but still, like, I've never rode a good one, period. I've only rode like 3 cutting bred horses in my life, so probably he's just okay. And then he wasn't in the sale. We were going to private sell him, and I videoed him, not even as a sales video. I just was like, oh, he feels pretty good as I was pulling him around. And I was like, hey, someone get their phone out, and I took his tail out, being like, just in case it's a good video. And I thought he was just okay, but then I showed some clips to a friend, Cody Smith, another trainer at home, and he was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, really? Like, he felt kind of shouldery or this or that, and he's like, that is unbelievable. You need to put that on Facebook or something. And I was like, all right, if you say so. And then I did, and then it was like my phone would not stop ringing with all these like 817 area codes, and like I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, and you couldn't even get him sold down here. Huh?
That's right. So then I was like,
that's awesome.
As soon as I could, I got health papers in Coggin, so I could cross the border, come to Texas, get this horse sold, and priced him at just what I thought was an obscene amount of money, which it's nothing in today's market. But I was like embarrassed to tell people the number, and they'd be like, okay, cool, when can I try him? And then first people that tried him was Jesse and Adon, which that's a whole story by itself. I was just like starstruck, and they liked him, went to vet him, had this deal in his x-rays, they passed. And then then the next person on the list tried him, and they liked him, didn't love him, also didn't like the x-rays, they passed. And it was like, I don't know how many people tried that horse, like 10. Until, like I say, and I don't know if these guys have experienced, but like it's like a downward spiral, and by the end it doesn't matter how good your horse is or what the x-rays are like. Once a couple people are out, I mean, everybody's out. Just becomes radioactive. And I begged the guy on the phone as I was driving into town one day, like choked up with tears because I was in full panic mode, and he wouldn't take the horse. And there's so many stories. My wife was just a rock through that. And she was the one that was like, and she was panicking like me. And then finally she got mad, and she has like a good anger in her sometimes. And she was like, screw these guys. We're going to do the surgery. We're going to double down, do the surgery put more money into this losing cause. And we're going to, if they don't want them, we'll show them and we'll smoke their ass somehow. And then anyways, Russ Westfall found him and bought him. But looking back, so many things came out of that. One, I got so much better at handling stress. Like, I feel like I got sacked out like a colt, and there was no good lesson. I just went through it, and now things don't bother me as much. Also, I got to meet all these trainers because they all tried my horse, and I never knew any one of them before that. And so I just immediately after that, I could go to the Futurity and know all these guys because of that horse. And if he hadn't failed that first one, if these guys had bought him, they'd be the only 2 guys I'd met. But as it was, I met every trainer in the NCHA.
And if we'd have won on him, we'd have never mentioned his name.
Yeah.
I'd have been in the interview going, yeah, I kind of halter broke him, and actually I did the embryo transfer even. I just, I start from the beginning. It's just me in a loincloth and this horse in the wild.
Yeah, so that I would not have the courage to go through that again, but so many things came out of that. And then Westfalls and meeting those people, like, oh my gosh, they've changed my life. It just so worked out awesome, but I don't think I could do it again.
No, that's a pretty good failure to try to compete with. I think maybe I'll just.
But I feel self-conscious because it's not a failure. I sold the horse for $300,000 and he won the super stakes. Like, that's not a failure, bro.
But
But it was a hard time.
Failure because you came to the sale, trying to sell them, you didn't get them sold.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we're afraid of when we come down here. Maria wants our horse.
Yeah. There's no guarantee someone likes one of your horses.
No.
Scary.
What would be the horse that sticks out to you in your mind that you didn't get sold good, that went on and was a really great horse that that you felt like you got like just enough money to sell it, basically? Like, for instance, you sold one you mentioned for 14,000, went on to make the Open Snaffle Bit finals. Obviously that was, the sale process failed a little there because that horse was a good horse. Just rebelling, you almost were in the same situation again. So like, I know as a horse trainer, for me, sometimes I'm telling even my customer, like, hey, this is a great horse, and they watch me work it and they're like, ugh. And then like, it's like, well, at least they own it, so they're screwed. They gotta ride it, and then we come to the Futurity and it does really great, and they're like, ow, I can't even believe it was just so terrible. But I can only imagine the pressure if, well, it's being and it's not what I know it's capable of. I'm actually on sale day going,
Here you go ahead, take
it.
Well, yeah, well, there's a bunch. There's a lot that I've really not got shown well on sale. So that there were some that maybe I showed a little better than they were and got a little more than I should have. But there was a lot more that I didn't show as good. Stylish Haley was one of those. It's cool. That was really cool. She was a few years ago. James Payne actually showed her in the early Futurities, and I think he got taken out of one with a bad cow. He just couldn't even get this cow cut. He committed to it, couldn't get it cut, but he won the other. Wow.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
She was an amazing meal. I think, what'd she bring? I think 32,000. Oh, wow.
I made it look pretty bad. And her son we brought back, we embryoed because I liked her, or Todd liked her. He got an embryo out of her, and we brought him down, and I think we set like a $20,000 reserve and didn't get him sold. And so I talked Terry Hollis into coming and buying him. He made the semifinals the next year on it. He got him for 25, I think he gave.
Yeah.
And it was my Brazen's favorite horse. It was around COVID time, so he had got to watch him the whole year. And he's like, he does this thing with his neck, so it's just cool. And Brazen acted out like he'd leave his shoulders and then bring his neck. This horse had something we thought was special about it. And I wasn't able to show anyone that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Do you find after a few of those people take your word for it more?
That actually Terry Hollis did that the next year, and he failed badly with that.
yes, they did, and they shouldn't have.
It turned out that one just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
I couldn't get him shown well because he wasn't very good. So
you got to watch for that.
It's really hard, and that's why, like we talked earlier about people's question. Like, people ask me, "What's your favorite one?"
Yeah.
And that is the hardest question because they all want to buy your favorite one, and a lot of times you're wrong. Well,
Right.
what that horse feels like at home, not under pressure, might not be what they feel like here when you're actually selling them on sale day. And especially with ours, where we don't camp on them at all. I have a lot of horses that I ride, and so we're just like exposing them to a certain amount of training, and then, here, this is what this horse looks like
Under this amount.
under this amount of training. And I can think one's going to be great at home, and sometimes that's not the great one. And I can think one maybe is a little limited at home, and then you get it on fresh cows where it has to just get it, and it's like a really good horse.
Wow.
So I get really tired of being wrong when people ask you, what's your favorite one? It's why I'm trying to avoid that question as much as possible, but it's not, I can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hard because I've been in the buyer seat with, either trying to buy one of y'all's horses or getting it bought. And I know, I as a buyer, I just want to know kind of what 3 you like. I don't want to know what you think fits me or whatever, because I'll just change for the horse. Like, I need a winner, and I'll do the change, and that horse don't need to change nothing. And I know, like, I think one of the best questions I can ask is not which is your favorite one, but just, do you like the horse or not? And, and then you try to make your own choice off the video if I'm sitting up there being a judge, because I know when I go to pre-work our Futurity horses, I've got maybe a favorite, but I might not show it at Futurity because I'm going to watch all 5 pre-works that I go to, and I'm going to sit there like a judge, and I'm going to show the 2 that I judge like the most, not because I know the judges ain't never going to get on it. So it doesn't matter worth the shit if I like the way it feels. It's got to like the way it appears. So I kind of try to always think that when I'm asking y'all questions like that, because it is just so easy to be wrong.
I like that because your job as a buyer and our job as a seller is actually very difficult when you take into consideration the amount of money that we're talking. It's less and less the more that we have money, but especially early on when I didn't have money and you're trying to convince somebody to buy a horse for a lot of money. It's or trying to be as honest as possible and say, hey, no, I maybe wouldn't spend a lot on this horse. And then that one comes out and beats the one that you said, and so you really have to, in our situation, try to let people make their own decision a little bit, because like you said, what that horse feels like maybe, and I'm guilty of it. I've really tried to tell people what horse I like, maybe almost too much. And like we were talking with Terry Hollis, the one time it really worked. He took my word for it. It worked. The next time it didn't work, and so I kind of want to put that pressure on the horses. Just let them either come to town and show off.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, right? And I think if you were to say out of 100, which ones you thought would do well, your percentage is going to be high. You know what I mean? So it's not 100%. There is no guarantee in this game, but your educated guess is going to be very high.
Yeah.
And I would say that about any one of you guys that know the game, study the game, know the horses.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
What was that quote you said Ryan said at the video booth
Yeah. So
there when we were off camera?
Well, we did a little a viewing of some horses yesterday. Ty Benson and I worked them over there, and we had Colby Moore and Ryan Rapp came over there and commentated for us. But afterwards, we were talking there, and Ryan, he had said that he was sitting over here at this video booth, and all these trainers over here watching, and there was a certain trainer over here the other day that was just picking all these videos apart, all the negative things that he saw in them or that he didn't like for his own liking. And then he asked Ryan's opinion, and Ryan just said, well, what I look for is their eyes, their ears, and their hind feet. He said, those are the 3 things I'm looking at. He said, because if how those 3 things react to that cow tells me a lot about what that horse is going to be like, even though maybe everything isn't perfect. They're just still 2-year-olds. But if those 3 things are telling me good things in response to that cow, after that, I look at conformation of the horse, and he said the great horses that I see have great conformation. And he said that usually the horses that are bigger, stronger, more physical, horses tend to be the horses that go on and be more mature, in the process. And so he just said that's what he really looks for, is those things. Yeah. But I thought that was a very, good perspective, and just listening to him talk, I have for one thing, he's raised with Phil and Marianne being his parents, and I think they're amazing people in this sport, and they've done a great job of obviously raising him and his sister. But he's just a brilliant-minded young man to listen to, and has a very confident and unique perspective of how he looks at those horses.
Does he have 2 non-pro semifinalists and 2 open futurity semifinalists?
Yeah.
He's a freak.
Yeah, no, he is. And I mean, I don't know what his, beyond his non-pro career, when his open career starts, I would think that would be at some point soon. Yeah. But I bet that guy goes down as one of the greatest we've seen, because
Totally.
he's amazing.
No
Yeah, to watch.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. And a good kid too. Much like Gregg came down by himself, and he had some helping words from a Don. Ryan did the same thing for me. I had a horse that I was hauling around to some of the aged event shows, and nobody else was really paying attention, but he offered, like, in the practice pen, hey buddy, do you need some help turning back? So I think the world of that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, just a good guy, and he's got a bright future.
Yeah.
Man, I got just a few more. I know we've been sitting here for a while. I got a few more, and then we'll wrap this thing out. But You'll mention something about the videos, and I'm curious to know what everybody seems to have their own style with the video. I'm really curious about yours. Who's behind the camera filming, and yeah, how did you come up with that style?
Todd Nelson videos, and he is getting quite good at it. Like, he can run that thing where he can basically chop my head off. You know?
He does a good job of doing that.
Not take the horse out of the picture.
Is that the folk? Is that's intentional though? Like just to have the horse?
Yeah.
And when he first started, people were like, "Oh, that's horrible," But now you see every
You change the game.
or
Yeah.
on Facebook, every reel is super close.
Yeah.
Some of them end up accidentally chopping the horse's head off for a second or whatever. And he's been doing that since we very first started.
Yeah.
Getting close enough you can't hardly see the cow, and then we've perfected it. Like we have a round, big square pin set up, and we've triangled it off at the end, and then put the camera here or here or here or here, and then he can video in like this, with the cow, trying to go back out the gate, and the babysitter's behind me. And so that cow stays out away from me and just comes in, and he videos, and or I cut one of the babysitters, the shock steers, but he gets it and that's exactly what he likes to see. And it doesn't change. That's what he wants to see, and that's his deal. The video deal is his deal. It's his deal. Yeah, that's cool. Sometimes I'm like, well, maybe we should just work around a little. Well, maybe let's try it this way.
How about we just do what Todd says, Richard? Yeah.
That's what ends up happening.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't jack with it. Both of you guys, I think you revolutionized videos, and I don't know if people realize, but video is like everything. And you did, and then Wes, you've told me like the way you videoed in the past is not by accident; it's by spending a lot of time in trial and error, and I feel like you also perfected it.
Well, I don't know about that, but I have it's just same as him, I have what I like to see, and so that's the reason we video at the angle we video at and do things a certain way. But the videoing process for me, I learned a lot about those horses, because you can ask me what my favorite horse is, and I have a hard time telling you that. But once we get done videoing you, I can almost tell you what it is, because it's been my experience the great horses show up on video day. And usually tend to get videoed, because you can do things with those better horses. You can do things with cows that are tough, that you can't do on the other ones. And so I do, as much as I hate the videoing process, because it's a lot to do on a lot of horses and get it done, and be content with the outcome of it. I do think it's an interesting process, and I learned a lot about those horses through that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to skip the videoing process. I would love they just called me and said, "What's the good one?" and I'll tell them, and we'll just leave it at that. And I guess I'm sort of opposite of Richard. Usually my favorite one is the best one. I would say 100% of the time. And sometimes I wonder, is it the best one because I made it that because it was my favorite? And I don't think so. I think maybe just the process. Like it is so different between you and I. I'm the one picking them, so I picked the one like that's my favorite because it was my favorite when I saw it. But I find the videoing challenging. And I haven't had the privilege of I've never been able to video the same way twice. Like at home in Canada, cattle in the fall, there aren't any. Like in Canada, they only calve one time a year, and fall time, their cattle are not available to be worked. Like there's no cuttings on at that time of year because you can't get cattle. So sometimes I get lucky, and the one year I had a whole bunch of fresh calves that were awesome. And then last year I had to move to a feedlot to find cattle and then figure out how that pen works and figure out where you can video from and see, not have the turnback horse in the way and all that stuff. And then this year I moved down here, and that was a process figuring out how to set up, demonstrate what I want them to see. Like I want them to see what I can feel in an extremely eye-pleasing way. I study both these guys because to me they have figured it out. So I'm excited to stay in one place with regular access to cattle and perfect that. I try to present what I have I definitely, and I think you guys are good at it, like stop short of, because there's been guys over the years that have come in and gone out, and it turned out after a few years they were very good at videoing, and I've heard that sometimes the horses didn't feel like what they look like, and it turned out they were just very good at videoing. And then that would suck to be that guy, because he was just doing his job, but it's harder for that guy to sell a horse because people have had that buyer's remorse. So I think there's something to be said for, go ahead and make your bad one look bad, or just don't try to, just let them look like what they look like. But I've had them where I know I'm very confident this is a special horse, and you go to video and I watch it back and I'm like, it's not obvious to me, but I know what this horse is like. And then we maybe video again and then like get it and like, thank goodness. But I always think, but what if we hadn't got it? Like I knew, and then that horse did go on and do good. And I always think, like, what if we didn't get it? The horse isn't any worse. Like, it's still that same quality horse. So how do I make sure that horse has the career he's supposed to have? Yeah. So I'm actively struggling with that whole challenge.
Well, in working at home on the daily, I'm working for 4 or 5 turns. Like if I get 4 or 5 good turns, 3 to 5 turns, that are what I would expect out of this horse to be able to achieve for today, then I put that horse up.
Will you work them multiple times a day
No.
or shorter duration or no?
You mean to do the videos or just work?
Oh, you're saying for the video.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, that in normal training,
It's not 2.5 minutes of badass getting it.
No, I mean, I'm working on things, that I want to work on. And then whenever it finally gets to that point that they give me what I've, been preparing them for, and get that, 3 to 5 good turns out of there, then I put them up for the day and reward them for doing what I've asked them to do.
Yeah.
But so in saying that, that's the whole training process all year. But then you get to this video that needs to be, 1.5 to 3 minutes long, and so now you need that many turns, because yeah, so it's that's what makes it a little bit tricky, I think, is trying to, expect a horse to be able to do that in one session can be a lot sometimes. Yeah.
Right. It's hard just to have a cow do it.
No,
Yes.
well, that is
And
the
you're
biggest
doing back
deal,
help, yeah.
and I try to use fresh cows, or I do use fresh cows for the videos, but I mean,
Sometimes they're harder.
yeah, I know
Yes,
that.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's where we're seeing guys use shock steers. Like, I think the combo is a great idea to be like, okay, I got friend of ours in there, but if I can't get worked, I just get worked right here on the shock steer.
Yeah.
If the horse looks great on a shock steer, it's gonna look good on the fresh cow. And I know from just because private sell horses 3-year-old year and stuff, and just being a horse trainer, you need a video to send to somebody, and it can be hell. Now I can't even imagine a timeline. Be like feeling a horse get good, and I'll be like, oh, we're 5 days away from maybe I'll get a clip, and then then if you need a 3-minute long one, shit, that's like an over the pants crotch rub. Not effective.
Well, so many horses are sold in those moments when they see the photo, a great photo or a video. I feel like a lot of buyers have already made their mind up, and
No doubt.
whatever happens on show day.
Yeah. That's the least important thing, I think, is how they actually work on that day.
Yeah, and see, I've never had that happen. I've always had to come and have them show fairly good on show day. I've had some horses that people were talking big money for that didn't show up on show day, and they didn't bring anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because my experience as a buyer, just because
That's why I know a lot of guys ride them.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, you run out of horse, and then actually in there selling, that feeling. Yeah, when you're raising your hand, you can't make those buyers have that feeling, because everybody's been riding them, or at least that was my concern. I've never really.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. And I guess maybe another question is how much test riding is wise for the young guys out there, because I know, like, when I'm buying, I don't really want to ride it because I'm only going to lie to myself. I'm either to like the way it feels or hate the way it feels, and regardless are irrelevant because the judge's opinion is all that matters. So I just want to see it and feel that feeling. So I'm I don't really know that you need to, but I do know a lot of my friends will be, oh, I got to go work that horse, and, you know, calling these guys. And then you're like, shoot, if I'm selling, I know I don't want that, because I'm like, well, shoot, I don't want you to not like it and then go sit for 3 weeks in the cow box and talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the job.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what the good answer there is, because if it's a good feeling horse, you know, I mean, obviously it might be super for good to let these guys ride it and feel that, but then really when they're buying that horse, you know, and the emotions are there and they're bidding on it, that horse needs to be at its best. So you can't sacrifice having that horse.
Totally.
Yeah, and 2-year-olds are really fragile at this point.
Well, and when you're talking about the dollars that we sell them for, I mean, in order, if somebody's going to try them, in my opinion, the few times that I've done it, with the exception of maybe Austin and Adon, you know, that have tried those horses, I think those two guys in particular just feel for the little things that they want to feel. And then they've already seen it on the video that gave them the interest to want to look in the first place. And those are the two guys that I've had try horses that did not push them to what I thought their maximum potential was. For what I've felt. And I had the most respect for those guys through that process of doing that, because I've had some other guys try them that just pushed them as far. They wanted, they were like, if I'm going to pay X amount of dollars, I'm fixing to see exactly what's in here. And then getting on those horses after that and trying to, you know, reel them back in, you know, or with the thought of someone else doing it after that it already been done, you know. Yeah, I think it's not fair to the horse, you know. So what is the balance and what is the right thing to do? I have no clue. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've had the experience where someone's tried my horse and made me money because they unlocked a horse that I didn't know was there, and then they had to buy it from more because their own training was on it. It's awesome. Yeah, I've had that.
Tom Sawyer style.
Yeah.
Well, I've had just horses that have went to Lloyd before, and he's tried them, and then they went back home with me, and I almost don't even want to work them the next day, because I know what it's going to feel like. It's going to feel the best that horse has ever felt, and the day after that, it's not going to feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's always the feel that he can put on a horse in one work is like, it's unbelievable.
Throughout your career, y'all's profession, your craft, what's some of the worst advice you've ever gotten? And I think this is important, not to hate on whoever gave you the advice or to criticize them, but it's an acknowledgement, and maybe somebody listening to this got similar advice and this may steer them a different way. But what's some of the worst advice you've gotten throughout your career as it pertains to training young horses?
Man, what's coming to mind is just people that said like that such and such is not possible. Like, you're crazy to try that or do that. Or basically different versions of like, you're dreaming too big. Like, this is insane. When there's lots of versions of that, but just what we're doing here, like the first year we came down, first couple, 3 years even, there were sure people at home that were like, whoa, okay, good luck with that. And that was terrible advice. And and looking back, we got lucky, but even if it had failed like it was supposed to, it still was terrible advice. Like, what is life for if not for living? Like, that was terrible advice. So I tried to, and I'm glad I had people around me that, because I'm sure that I was all in on like, they're right, this is dumb, let's stop. And I know my stepfather and my wife and my mom and were ones that were like, no, go ahead. But yeah, and that's one thing I try to do with young people that work for me or whatever, is like, do the thing. I'm not saying it's going to work, but do it. Like, yeah.
Wes?
Well, the best advice I've ever been given was from Lloyd. And the first year in history that it took 2 2:16.5 to go to the Futurity finals. I marked 2:16 on a one-time stud that I had a miss on my third cow, so it cost me from making the finals. And right after that, I remember sitting over there on the wall, and I was just basically asking any trainer that walked by, what I could have done differently. I was really wanting to be there, and it didn't happen, and I was running why, and so I was searching for, too mmany different opinions, and I guess Lloyd saw me doing that or I don't know if he did or not, but about, I don't know, couple weeks later, I'm at home in the bronc pen working with a horse, and I get a random phone call from Lloyd, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I just starting over," and he laughed, and he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, no, I'm literally in the bronc pen just starting over." And so, he said, "Well, I've been thinking about you," and he said, he said, "You did a great job on your horse, and you showed him well. You had one miss on your third cow. And if that would happen on your first cow, chances are judges forget about it, and you still make it, And so, and he said, but I could, he said, just remember this. He said, not all advice is good advice. And that's the best advice I've ever been given, because I was a bit of a ship jumper, like trying to, I'd see something or try something different all the time, and never really found true confidence in my program and believing in what I was doing. And that's what he encouraged me. And he said, the reason that you got, I was thinking that I was half a point away from making the finals. That felt like this much.
Mm-hmm.
What he was saying, the reason you got half a point from being there is you're doing all the right things.
Yeah.
It's just one mistake that kept you from being there, And so, yeah, I think, as far as bad advice, I think I was, putting that on myself by trying to get too many different opinions, for one thing, which is dangerous, to do.
Right.
Totally.
Man, that's such a cool answer.
I guess mine, and it was an old customer I had named Kenny Dunn. He would always tell me, just remember, there's no set pattern. There's because everybody, and I think you kind of touched on it, like when you go to the shows, and you're a beginner, everybody tells you stuff like this is the way you have to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then people can kind of give you, pointers here or there.
And no one, what I find here, no one embarrassed about it. And those same 20 guys might all go out to eat together, and they can't really talk horses because they don't have a thing in common, but that's okay. And they talk about something else, and they have total respect for each other, even though they do not get it, because they just know how hard it is, and everyone's trying really hard and has their own way. Yeah.
Yeah. And where I was from, you'd hear, well, in Texas, they do this.
Yes, me too.
And then you get to Texas and you find out, well, in Texas, they do whatever
They do it all. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
That's right.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're in the biggest advantage where we are in this day and time, though, because used to, like, people did not share their secrets, or they did not even talk about horse training.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, there's been brawls back in the day because of people trying to dig their nose into people's business.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, people in the Coliseum in there was kind of a two sides, well, you had Buster and Matlock back in the day, and it was like one side of the Coliseum was Buster's, the other side of it was Matlock's. And Buster would turn back on this side and Matlock would turn back on that side, but they never crossed lines. And the guys that worked for him stayed over there, and the guys that worked for them stayed on that side. And so it was just a different game, and for us to be able to pull your phone out, and if you're a young person and you want to learn, I mean, you have it in your hand. You can learn anything you want to learn.
Yeah.
And I think and now we just have a camaraderie between people that I think we've, that's evolved that we never had before. That, I want to do well in there. I want to see him do well. I want to see him do well. I'm not ever going in there hoping that I do better than them. These guys have a family to feed.
Do better than you, I'll be real happy.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, we all have a family to feed. We all are trying to, that's really what it boils down to.
Because I know you're going to do very well.
Hey, you're not having yours brings 30. And yours brings 50.
I knew what you meant.
He's bringing a million. You're bringing
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I know yours is going to bring the million. I'm just hoping I can.
Yeah. Well, no, so whenever I sold Tin Man for 500, how much did Itchy's My Choice bring?
300.
Right. So that was the highest selling horse in history at that time.
No, there was one that beat her that day.
8 Mile?
Yeah,
Was that the same sale?
So, anyways, my mother-in-law.
Let's switch to something less awkward.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble. Let's talk about my mother-in-law.
I'll just
Yeah.
that was the highest selling horse in history at that time.
There you
So
go. There you go.
What year would that have been?
10 men for 500.
showed in 14, maybe 12.
Yeah, it was. There was quite a gap, and then there was 10 men a year off, Witchery Magic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was on an every other year trend that is no longer in existence. But
Also, can I take this moment to say that you told me once that if you sell one, because I think I was wearing a Western bloodstock ball cap, and I was pretty proud of it. Yeah. And Wes is like, if you sell one for $1 million, they give you Western bloodstock underwear. But then when he did it again, he's like, yeah, I asked Jeremy about that underwear. He said, just turn these ones inside out.
you have a better memory than I wish you had.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the Wes Ashlock one-liners.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could sit here for a few more hours, and I would thoroughly enjoy that. But we'll end it with some rapid fire questions. I've just got 4 or 5 here. Feel free to answer them as quickly or as lengthy as you want. So I'm just going to ask them in a rapid manner. We'll just go this way. What is your favorite Western movie?
John Wayne, the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's one of my first ones I ever saw. Richard Jordan?
Lonesome Dove.
Lonesome Dove's the only proper Western movie I've ever seen, so Lonesome Dove.
And we all know Jesse loves Heartland, so
Yeah.
you know, that's about a movie.
What about City Slickers? Why does City Slickers not get the credit it deserves?
Blazing Saddles.
Billy Crystal?
The nod.
For Three Amigos, we just watched that the other day. It gave Lonesome Dove a pretty good run. So yeah, you need to watch it.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you read most or gift most to other people?
Well, I've never gifted books. I tried to read the Bible on the daily in the mornings. That's kind of my morning routine. I like to get up and just try to read a little bit before I start my day.
Read the good book.
I don't read a lot.
You don't read a lot.
Yeah. I probably also read the Bible more than any other book, but I probably don't read it near as much as I should.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
Right on.
Probably a book called Tattoos on the Heart by Gregory Boyle. That's about, he's a guy that runs a deal in Los Angeles called Homeboy Industries. It's like a gang intervention deal. That's just it's just a cool book.
Yeah.
I've got a Hustler magazine I like pretty good.
And you give out?
I give it
Or
out.
just that one copy, does it go around?
I give it out.
What was your first vehicle?
A Dodge Shadow
A Dodge Shadow.
that I bought from my parents for $400.
Whoa. What about the hail damage limousine?
No, that was after the Dodge Shadow.
Okay, well, we just want to hear about that one.
No.
You owned a limousine.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he did. What age were you when you drove the limo around Abilene, Texas?
Well, so my dad was a welder by trade, but he also rebuilt wrecked cars. And so all of my first vehicles, like we'd buy them in the wrecking yard, come home, take all the broken parts off of them, rebuild them, and that's what I would drive. But my first car was a Dodge Shadow.
14 years old is the answer.
Yeah.
Wes Ashlock, 14 years old, driving the limousine around Abilene. Just
Longhorns on the front.
Yeah, ripping it.
Be a little more descriptive. Was it like a Cadillac
Yeah.
limo?
Cadillac.
Black or white?
White.
White.
Yeah, no, you can see the hail damage. Yeah. It was yeah. No, it was solid hail damage. Yeah. We bought it up, but it ran. I mean, it fired right up. I drove it right off
to school.
No, well, I quit school in 8th grade,
Yep.
so no. Yeah. But no, I just bought it for $750, and me and my friends, we would just drive it around.
Cruise around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
And I got broke one time, and I drove it on this car a lot, and this guy gave me $1,500, so I doubled my money.
That limo.
Richard Jordan? I had a little bitty gray Mazda pickup that I irrigated with as a kid.
Mazda pickup.
Yeah. There was light in the back end where it would slide around on the gravel road.
Standard. Standard or automatic?
Standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg?
I wish I could pull up a photo. It was pretty cool. I had a 1988 Monte Carlo SS. It was bright purple at the T-tops and quite a bit of rust, but at night at a distance you couldn't tell. And it did not cost very much money, and it did not run for very long, but it was cool.
Cool last.
It was cool while it lasted.
What about you, Jesse Lennox?
A 93 Toyota Camry.
Is Toyota different than Toyota? So different.
Yeah, the Canadian version.
Yeah.
Hey, what was the little car you had when you worked for Alice? What was that car?
That was the Toyota Camry. And then it broke down, and I got a Forenza.
That's what the Forenza.
The F fell off, so it just said Forenza. Had some fuzzy dice in the mirror.
I remember the dice. Yeah.
Oh, man, just a couple more here for you. Do you have an embarrassing moment in the arena? What is your most embarrassing moment in the show pen or arena?
Well, one time I was, like when I very first started, I was winning one of the go-rounds up at Idaho on a mare that I had like 8 months of riding on. And on my third cut, I flipped the rein over her ear, and it was like the rein came up like this, and she went right back to cutting, it's turned tail, so,
Oh, really?
I don't know. Well, it just flipped it up, it just was right over the top of her ear, and the bridle folded over, and I was like thinking, oh, this was going to be my year. I was going to, break the deal. Like I went to Idaho 5 years without any sort of luck at all.
Really?
Oh, I just got where I dreaded it.
I don't this close, or I half fell off a horse, a 2-year-old in the sale pen last year,
Oh, really?
which Kenny Platt will not let me forget. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing.
What?
Two hands on the reins? Yeah. And yeah, the horse was not like real dynamic, so I'm not sure what all happened. And I thought as it was happening, I was like, oh, this will probably be good for business. Like if it gets around that much that this guy who does this for a living can't even ride it. And the bidding stopped cold. There were no more bids after that. Yeah, that was, yeah. And I'd actually almost forgot about it. And we were at Kenny Platt's house this summer, and that was, I think, the first thing he brought up. So, yeah, shout out to Kenny Platt.
Well, actually, last week, whenever I was, when Jesse was in between me and the cow, I was wanting to work, and my horse could no longer see it. That was a little embarrassing for me.
We'd made some bad life choices.
Yeah, beginning with me choosing that cow. Yeah. Yeah.
Very public stage.
Yes.
I helped you choose it too. So.
Yeah.
Last question, and I ask this at the end of every show. If you could put a message on a billboard to get it out to millions of people, metaphorically speaking, what would your message say?
Accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, I guess would be what I would tell him. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
I was drawing a complete blank until he said that, and then I'll go with that as well.
That's the same as drawing a blank.
No, it's not.
No, I'm
heard you.
Yeah,
It is the correct answer.
yes. This is a test. Wes Ashlock, go.
Yeah.
You win. You got it right. I was gonna blank. I'm glad that you asked that.
Wow.
Gregg Garvie?
You always ask that, and every time I listen to your podcast, I always think about it. I'm like, what would I say? And I always have an answer. And now, I'm on the hot seat. I do not. Maybe just like, don't worry about it, or like it's gonna be okay.
I dig it.
Yeah.
What about you, Jesse Lennox?
Brumbar's Furniture and Design. That's actually what I would do.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah. Sweet.
Cool. Guys, thank you all very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
What would you have?
I'd probably go with the Ray Wiley Hubbard quote. The days I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations, I have really good days.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. Well, thank you all very much. I don't know. I think this will come out after the sale. So I wish all of you all the best of luck at the sale. It's going to be fun watching. And Louis Vuitton Vaquero, glad to have you back, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.